that his nativity goes back to Mesopotamia. So I'm trying to walk through it with you to see if it lines up logically. That's all.
Yeah, his nativity is Mesopotamia, but that's not the land that he was promised.
Got you.
See what I'm saying? So it starts. So I think the smartest place to start at is Egypt.
Got you.
I mean, everything starts in Egypt.
Everything doesn't start in Egypt, but
wasn't Nimrod's empire in Mesopotamia?
That's what they say, but I don't know if that's the real Mesopotamia.
We've archaeologically verified the city of Uruk, which is the city of Erech, by tablets and different things. So I mean, I don't know if we can really get around that. I mean, even the Tower of Babel story is said to go back to that period.
Okay, that's fine. If y'all want to, if you want to believe that's cool. I'm okay with that.
So Abraham's nativity would be in Mesopotamia.
Okay.
All right, so we know where he started. He goes to Haran next, right? He moves to Haran from Ur Chaldees. I'm not looking at the narrative, so I'm going off memory.
Okay.
And then where does he go next?
I believe he goes to Gerar.
Let me pull up the trek. Let me pull up his trek real quick.
Wait. What did you say, Shoot? Because I don't remember the journey. I'm actually studying it. What did you say?
Yeah, so after Ur Chaldees, he makes his way to Haran, right? Which is like north of Syria.
Yeah, he goes to Haran. Yeah, he goes to Haran.
And then from Haran, he goes where?
From Haran, he goes to Shechem.
He goes to Shechem. Okay, Shechem. Now that's a big one. We have archaeological evidence of a man named Abu Rahani as a ruler of Shechem. So where is Shechem located? Brother.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us where Shechem is located? What's his brother's name? Warifah?
Orifa.
Excuse me, Warifah.
I believe they say Shechem is in the Middle East, right?
Okay, so Shechem's in the Middle East. So wouldn't be the land allotted to the Israelites be in the Middle East as well?
No, sir. That's not the end of his journey.
But where was he promised? Where was the promised land originally at?
Well, we gotta read some scripture. So
I'm fine with that. What scripture you want me to go to, brother?
Let's go to Genesis chapter 12, verse 8 and 9.
Genesis chapter 12, verse 8 and 9. I'm pulling it up on the computer right now.
If you like, I can read it, or
you can go ahead. You can go ahead and read it. I'm just gonna pull it up while you're reading it.
Okay. It says, and he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel. You can Google Bethel, South Africa. You'll find out there too also. And pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and High on the east. You can Google High. That's in South Africa also.
Can I slow you down real quick, brother, please? If you don't mind, can you read verse 4? Because that's why I'm trying to walk you through the migration so you can know where he's at. Read verse 4.
Verse 4.
Yes, sir.
So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran.
Okay. We established that Haran would be north of Syria. Okay, keep reading. He took his wife.
And Abraham took Sarah, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came.
Okay.
And Abraham.
Stop right there. So it doesn't say anything about going through Egypt. So we know he's not even making passage through Egypt. He's going straight from Haran to Canaan. Can we make that agreement? Can we see that distinguished right there in verse 5?
Okay, I'm good with you on that.
So we're still in the Middle East.
That's what you think. I mean, I haven't finished yet, brother. I mean, you haven't allowed me to finish
Okay,
yet.
go ahead. Finish your complete thought, because I just want to walk with it step by step
Hey,
with you.
and when he done, go to Genesis 15:18.
And Abraham passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And Abraham appeared unto and the Lord appeared unto Abraham and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord who appeared unto him. Verse 8. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abraham journeyed again, and Abraham journeyed going on still toward the south, which is Negev. South is Negev. Now I want to jump to verse. I'm sorry. I'm going to read verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. So now we're in Egypt. This is where I wanted to.
Can I point something out what that scripture just said, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
From the land of Canaan and Shechem, it says he went down into Egypt. That means wherever Canaan is north of Egypt. Not south, north. It says he went down into Egypt.
Right, he went down into Egypt from where they say Canaan is, right? So he's in Egypt. Where's Egypt at now? Same.
Egypt,
you know where Egypt is, right?
Egypt's in the Near East. We know where it is, Northeast Africa.
Oh.
I got you. But he
Okay.
traveled down into Egypt.
Okay, he traveled down into Egypt. Okay, I'm going to jump to chapter 13, verse 1.
But
And
wait a
Abraham-
minute, wait a minute, bro. I want you to just realize that you just read that he said he went down to Egypt, not up
Well,
to Egypt.
that word down and up is really talking about elevation. And if you look into the original, you're not going to see down and up in there. It's talking about elevation.
Continue, brother. All right.
Okay, so verse 13. And Abraham went up. See, that up is talking about elevation. It's not talking about direction. Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south, Negev. So he went down south from Egypt. That's what south is.
No, it just said up. It said he went up.
Yeah, but if you
Into
look
the
at the
Negev.
original, bro, there's no up there. And up
But
means
I understand that. That's fine. But the
Up
Negev
means-
is a geographical location, right?
No,
Negev is-
sir. No, sir. Negev
Okay.
means direction. It's
Okay.
south. In Hebrew, it means south country. So he went in the direction south, just
Yes,
like
but that is today considered an actual geographical location. If anyone can look it up. Anyone can Google the Negev. It's going to be a
Okay.
geographical location.
so to prove that
In the
so to
Near
prove that that I got some that what you're saying is a little incorrect. You can go to verse 14. And the Lord said unto Abraham, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes and look from the place where thou art, northward, which if you look that word up is Saphon, southward, if you look that word up is Negev, eastward, if you look that word up is Quedem, and westward. So he's giving you all the directions, and he's giving you their Hebrew names.
I
And
got
south-
you, but let me say one thing, and I'm gonna let you go back in your flow. The Negev is literally the desert where Beersheba is. That's where the Negev is. Is north of Egypt. So I'm not understanding your elevation claims here with this up and down, because it's clearly geographical locations, because we can look at these physical locations on a map, an ancient map, if you want to grab an ancient map, at these physical locations. And they coincide with up being north and down being south, not
Okay.
your elevation claim.
So I live in Texas. If I'm going to Oklahoma, which is, you look on the map, it's on top of Texas. But nobody says I'm going up to Oklahoma. You say you're going north to Oklahoma. Because
No, I'm from Houston, Texas. If I say I'm going Dallas, I'm going up to Dallas. If I'm going to the north side of Houston, I'm going up the street. I'm going
But
up.
those terms,
North is always coincided with up
I'm
in
sorry. This brother.
almost any language you're talking, especially when you're talking about physical geographical locations that you can
Right.
look at and see that up coincides with north and south, and down coincides with south. And I'm just going to yield there. You can go back in your flow.
right? But on a flat map, there is no up and down. It's north and south, east and west. There is no up. The only up is talking about elevation. The only down is talking about elevation. That's all it is. There is no up and down. Up and down is going up to the sky. That's what up and down is. But so like I was saying in verse 13, verse 1, he goes south. Now south from Egypt is going towards South Africa. So now when you look at my PTR, you'll see Mamre in South Africa. If you Google Bethel, you'll see that in South Africa. You Google Jerusalem, you'll find that in South Africa. All these places that they say are in the Middle East are actually in South Africa. So,
But we just walked through it. I'm confused, brother, because we just walked through it. We established the Chaldees is in Mesopotamia. Haran is like north of Syria, and he went down from Haran to Canaan before he even got to Egypt. So how did he get to South? You're saying he went from Mesopotamia all the way to South Africa and back up to Egypt. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that the starting point, you're making the starting point Mesopotamia.
But we walked through it.
Egypt.
I walked. You didn't, brother. The scripture didn't say he started off in Egypt. It said in the Chaldees.
No, it started in chapter 13, verse 1. And Abraham went up out of Egypt. That's your starting point.
That's where he wants to start his argument from.
But that's not where the migration started from. We read it in verse 12.
He wants to start his argument from that migration point. So let's just let that slide, because I'm trying to get what he's trying to say.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because I have something to say when he's done explaining his whole point, so I'll let him finish.
Right. So that's our starting point. So he traveled south. Now,
this man had made
south from the Negev.
This man had made Egypt the starting point of the migration.
South Africa. So, and you see all these places, like I was saying, in South Africa.
But South Africa, couldn't it be Ethiopia or Nubia, anywhere else besides South Africa?
Well, Ethiopia isn't south of Egypt.
Wait, Ethiopia isn't south of Egypt?
Yes, it
no, it's not down south. It's not going down south. It's not South Country. And
wait a minute. Are you looking on a map? Any map? Are you looking at one right now?
Yeah,
can you tell me where Egypt is and where Ethiopia is on a map? Are you telling me that Egypt is not north of Ethiopia?
I'm saying if you look on the map from Egypt to get to South Africa, you gotta go south.
That's but there's a lot of countries south of Egypt.
Like that
okay.
Even Madagascar is technically south of Egypt.
So I'm gonna show you something else. If you go to Joshua,
but the issue is the narrative didn't go south. The narrative went north. It went to the Negev.
Well, if he would have went to north, they would have said he would have went to the Saphon country. You have to go
they named the geographical location, which everyone knows the Negev is literally the desert where Beersheba is. That's right, South Israel.
Hear me out, bro. To get to the Middle East from Egypt, you have to go northeast. You have to go to the northeast country. He would have had to travel northeast. It don't say that. It says he traveled to the Negev.
I know, but the Negev is south of Jerusalem.
No, that's not how.
No. I got you. No. The word is not. They're not looking and naming locations from Egypt. Okay, they don't name locations. The Israelites are naming locations from their home in Israel, from their capital, and from the capital.
That's the vantage point.
South, the Southland, and that's where Beersheba is, south of Jerusalem.
That's northeast, brother. It's not south. There's nothing south about the Levant. It's all northeast Africa. There's nothing south about that region. You understand what I'm saying? That region is called Northeast Africa.
No. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let's say this. All right. I'm the person who's the scribe, right? Most scribes, when you're writing this type of codified document that would have been kept in the temple, would likely have been somewhere around the temple. Can we agree there? He's a priest. Normally a scribe is a priest or someone trained by a priest or somewhere around, and he's writing for whichever priest it is. They're normally gonna write from the stance of the capital city or where the temple is. So when they're naming their location, right, they're naming the location, the South Country, which is the desert around Beersheba. Anyone can look this up. Anyone, please, just Google Negev. N-E.
I'll put the link in. Hold on. I'll put the link in at the top.
Yeah, look at it. It is literally the desert in South Israel.
I'm going to pull up the Zondervan Handbook of Archaeology while they're talking to just watch
and it
this.
literally says there, which I've been saying, when it says up, it's literally congruent with being north because it says it goes up from Egypt to the Negev, which is north of Egypt. Just like every south, every time they say down, it's literally been down. It went down from Haran. That's to the south. To get into Canaan, Shechem. That's to the south, brother. It's been congruent. I don't see where you're getting this from.
All right, everyone. I changed the link at the top to Negev, so everybody, y'all can just push it and read the article that deals with the Negev.
Yeah, I
explains what we were saying.
I got an archaeological find that's powerful too. It actually helps the biblical narrative. This is a Zondervan Handbook of biblical archaeology, and it talks about right here. It says, however, with the respect to an Egyptian context, a hieroglyphic relief on the wall in the temple of Amun at Karnak in Luxor, Egypt, mentions a defensive site in the Negev as the fort of the fortified town of Abram. Israeli archaeologist and historian Yohanan Aharoni believed the fort of Abram was a term used by Egyptians for the Israelite city of Beersheba. So we know what the Negev is.
Can I read something else to you, brother?
But can you at least acknowledge that there's archaeology proving where the Negev is, and it's even a fortified town of Abram?
It's hard for me to trust the white man's archaeology. But I mean, if you want to go off of that, I'm trying to stick to the scriptures.
But that proves that hold on. But that gives validity to that there was an actual Abraham that lived in times past, and even the Egyptians knew of him.
Absolutely, I believe in my forefather Abraham.
Okay, so there's archaeology there, something that's dug out of the ground and verified.
I just don't trust their archaeology.
All right. I have a question. We know.
But can I read something real quick, and then y'all can say whatever y'all want to say. I want to go to Joshua chapter 15, verses 1 and 2, just real quick.
All right, yeah. I'll let you get to that, and I have a question.
Okay, this I'm gonna start reading. This then was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah by their families, even to the border of Edom, the wilderness of Zin, southward was the uttermost part of the south coast. And their south border was from the shore of the Salt Sea, from the bay that looketh southward. Now, my question is, if you're in the Middle East, if you are looking southward, is there a coast?
If you keep reading that, it says the coast of the Philistines. The Philistines lived near the wilderness of Zin, and we know that the Philistines were basically a people from the Mediterranean. They were
right.
So
but
that wasn't South Africa.
But I'm saying that if you're in South Africa, you do see a coast looking southward.
No,
if you're
the Philistines were there.
If you're in the Middle, if you're in the Middle East, the only way you can see the coast is looking westward.
No, you're skipping the part where it says Philistines. Philistines were near the wilderness of Zin.
The Philistines.
So were Ishmaelites.
Yes, they were. They stole that land.
All right, so what ethnic groups in South Africa are the Philistines and the Ishmaelites? Because they were near the wilderness of Zin.
Right, they got kicked out.
They got kicked out. Wasn't King David fighting Philistines?
Yes, he did. And he was fighting them there.
Yeah, but he never managed to kick them all out.
He didn't kick them all out, but I'm saying that that whole battle, all that fighting was done in South Africa.
Yeah, but what ethnic?
The Canaanites.
That boy
Those are
said it had
They
all
are
of
Canaanites. The Philistines are Canaanites. They're from. If you look up their genealogy.
okay. What about the
Philistines are-
Assyrian? What about the Assyrian conquest and deportation of Israelites? We know where the Assyrians are. They're Mesopotamian people, right?
Y'all are moving the goalposts, brother.
No,
I'm just
I
trying
need.
to show. I'm just
I'm
trying to
just-
show the migration of our forefather Abraham, and he went down south. Y'all are talking.
We're
about
trying to
conquest
establish
and all that
geography.
stuff.
To be fair, we're trying to establish geography here because it's confusing. You're saying this happened in South Africa. I mean South Africa, but everything that we're reading is placing it in the Fertile Crescent, placing it in the ancient Near East.
So Levant.
Yeah, that's just because they want you to think that's the
Who
Holy
is
Land.
they though? Like who is they?
So the Bible writers, the people that wrote the Torah.
The people that mistranslated, that took our records, they want you to think that our Holy Land is in that.
Oh, okay, can you give us another Torah then? Give us a Torah with the correct understanding that wasn't contaminated.
They've all been contaminated. You just have to be able to read between the lines and
So
understand that they twisted
That's
words
personal
like south.
interpretation, though.
Yeah,
Scripture tells us not to go by personal interpretation.
it's not personal interpretation. They twisted the line, the words.
Okay, so
They
now
turned
the
south.
scriptures also say
They
prove all
turned
things. So
south.
can you give us a manuscript that's older than that goes prior to the contamination that you keep saying happened? The European contaminated our manuscripts. So I need to see evidence of that. Give me the older textual variants that say what you say.
I just gave you an example of if you're standing in the Levant, you can't see the coast looking south.
Or you can see the reds. You can see the reds.
only
If you want to go by that route.
But that's all
Right.
mute. Can I just get the actual textual variant that hasn't been corrupted? Because you made the statement that it has been corrupted. They implanted certain things and certain notions into the Bible to trick us. So okay, so basically you're saying somebody tricked us. So are we just supposed to take your word for it, or do you have actual validated proof?
I have other proofs of where they've switched words and taken things out. I have other things, but I'm trying to stay on this topic. I mean, if you want me to go down that rabbit hole,
No, use
Talking about the
your
Bible.
verified scripture or whatever scripture you got to prove your point on this topic. How about that? Use your scripture. So turn to yours, and we'll.
I'm giving you plenty of scriptures. I'm giving you Genesis
Well, no,
chapter.
you're saying up don't mean up. You're saying down don't mean down. Okay.
But
how
that's
it is
true.
right now.
That's a true statement. Up don't mean up.
Oh,
Up means elevation on a map. There's no
okay.
up on a map.
But for some reason, all these geographical locations coincide with up being north.
Why don't you look at the original text? You won't see up in the original text.
Thank you. Can you provide us the original text?
Okay, how about let's say up is not in the original text.
Okay, so if it's not in the original text, they inserted it to confuse you.
Warif, I'm giving you that. Okay.
Warifa. It's
Take
Warifa,
argument,
sir.
I'm saying I'm gonna give you that.
It's Warifa. Okay.
The geographical location is still north. When they
North.
name a land, when they use up, it's congruent with the geographical location being north. When they use up in the English rendition, it's still congruent with the geographical location being south. So no matter if it's in the original text or not, it's still accurate, and you have to deal with that.
Now you got to deal with that, brother. Because to go to the Levant from Egypt, you don't go south. You go northeast.
Oh my
You
God.
got to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. I've
I'm
already
going up.
been with what
I'm
my
going
research.
up on a Tuesday. Okay, all right,
You're not going up. You're going northeast.
brother.
That up thing is it don't go there.
Where are you from in Texas? I'm curious.
I live in Fort Worth.
That might explain.
The Cal City. You live in Cal City. All right, brother.
So okay.
No,
if
that.
you want to insult me, go ahead.
No, you live in Cal City. That's a red county. I love red counties, bro. Anybody insult me, bro. But here's the thing, man. I just can't follow your line of logic when the Bible gives you geographical locations that are not in line with South Africa. If he would have went south of Egypt, he would have ran into Cush. It didn't even mention Cush. He would have at least he had to go through Nubia, correct? We don't even see a mention of Cush. We don't see a mention of Nubia. And even before he gets to Egypt, it talks about he was already in Canaan before he went to Egypt. So did he circumnavigate Africa to get to South Africa and then walk all the way back up to Egypt? Make it make sense.
Plus, when baby Jesus and then went to Egypt from Jerusalem, wasn't that like a day trip? Like it didn't even take that long. And going from South Africa to Egypt, that's way more than a day.
You in the Matrix, word of God.
Or was I breaking up? I can't tell what's going on.
No, we breaking up.
All right. I also want to ask him because someone on YouTube said this. Who named those cities in South Africa? Because the Aboriginals do this too. Oh, Jerusalem over here. There's a Jerusalem in Peru. Jerusalem. Texas. There's a Palestine, Texas.
Hey, I'm glad you brought that up because I heard an American tell me that the Exodus happened from Texas to California. California is Eritrea. Yo, Americans be saying the wildest thing of a place that I was born in. Like, I still speak the language is that the Tuahido, which means one, the first Bible, that's still in that area that a lot of outsiders keep messing up. Like, we laugh at this. Like this, that language is not dead. It's still spoken.
I got you, man. I don't know why people want to put Israel. What is the need of putting Israel in South Africa?
I don't know, bro. Israel just ain't in Israel. The actual location ain't where it's actually.
Where we find all the archaeology, where we find Dan, Beersheba, the fort of Abram. We find all the archaeology there.
Amarna letters when the Canaanites were asking for aid from the Egyptians that fits the Exodus.
Yeah.
Hey, what's crazy to me is I hear people say, these people went to Philadelphia. We really Hebrew Israelites. You ain't nothing. I was like, wait a minute. You know how big of a gap it is from ancient Gibbs or what folks are calling Egypt to Philadelphia, America? But y'all got more of a connection than the place where I was born in? That's interesting.
Yeah, Memphis, Egypt is actually Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So y'all trying to say that America is the Holy Land?
No, we not. We show you by comparison that it's people teaching that places in America have certain biblical names, like Antioch, Tennessee, Antioch, Texas. So since it has biblical names, people try to put the location of Israel in America or Egypt in America, and you doing the same thing with South Africa.
No, but they can't show Egypt in America, and they can't show if you're in Egypt in America. Well, where did he travel south to?
We can't show Jerusalem in South Africa either.
Exactly.
Yes, you can. I'm telling you, if you Google Jerusalem.
All right, I'm gonna Google Jerusalem.
There's an actual Jerusalem, South Africa.
Well, hey, brother.
If you Google Bethel, South
No,
Africa,
hold on.
All
Brother,
these
are
places
you
don't
from
belong.
Africa? Hold on. Are you from Africa? The one that said it's in Jerusalem is in South Africa.
Say that again.
Are you from Africa, my brother?
Y'all keep trying to.
No. Yes or no question.
What does that got to do with the price of rice in China?
It has. Hold on. Because I'm from Africa. The stories that I hear out from people outside of Africa is the most interesting stories, brother. That's all I'm trying to get at. It's impossible for Jerusalem to be in Peru or in South Africa. As an African, I have to stop the madness. Like we're not gonna allow people to rewrite history.
I'm not rewriting anything. Let me show you what my research
is. In Warifa's defense, I do not see how you being from a certain geographical location gives you this all-knowing knowledge about a geographical. Now, I agree with you. Wait a minute. Let
I can go deeper in the understanding if you're from there. Like if I start talking in the language that's Ge'ez, that's in the Tawahedo Bible. So I have.
You can come right back up, but just let me finish what I'm saying, brother. That's all I'm saying, because that was an argument you're making. People from outside the continent, like I live in Texas. I don't know everything about Texas. When the brother talked about Fort Worth earlier, the reason I said what I said was because we have a linguistic difference, like as far as our slang and stuff is concerned. So when he say up, it may mean something different. That's why I was like, okay, I get that. But you just being from a location don't give you no innate knowledge. Now, if you have some history that you can name, some archaeology you can bring out to back up what you're saying, that's completely different. But don't just say because you're from Africa. And I yield it back. But I agree with you. It's not in South Africa.
Let me ask you a question.
I got Hebron, South Africa.
Hold on, please. I got a question. I walked in kind of late and I started hearing Warren Cloud going in on topography. How do we get on topography in the first place? How do we get there?
Because they're talking about up and down. They're trying to say that up means going,
And up means up.
yeah, but it really means elevation.
All right, hold on. Let me get this straight. So when you're saying when they were saying up and down, you're saying that up and down is not north and south. Up and down is elevation.
Correct, because South Africa is higher in elevation than Egypt. So he went up to the Negev. He went up in elevation to the south. He went down south. That's where the term down south actually comes from our forefather Abraham.
So my elevation?
Where's the river Euphrates?
I don't think that what we consider or what conventional education considers Euphrates is the actual Euphrates. So he's going to say something different. But what about the fact that Egypt was divided into southern and the northern part, but on a map, the southern part is actually on the north, and the north is on the south.
I would say
that's
that
because
as far
of
as
the flow of
Egypt
the
is
Nile.
concerned, they went according to how the river flowed.
Exactly.
Right. But the only reason I put it, I tossed it in the conversation is I want to hear what he says, because it'll throw.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think
What's your question, sir? I didn't catch your question.
I'm saying, what about the fact that the northern area of Egypt was actually called the Southern Kingdom, but the southern part of it was considered Northern Egypt.
So you're saying
upper and lower Egypt, yeah. Upper Egypt was actually South Egypt, lower.
Right, but they called it, like on a map, the southern part is considered upper, and the northern part is considered southern.
I feel like they just switched it, because the upper kingdom really should be the southern kingdom. Going towards the south should be the upper kingdom, because you're upper in elevation. The Nile flows from elevated point, and it flows down to a lower elevation. If you feel what I'm saying.
Hold on, Warford. Let me say this.
That's not how the Nile River flowed, though. Wait, what?
Right. Hold on, real quick. Hold on. I want to address.
I just want to be clear that
AK, chill out real quick. AK, I'm gonna give it. AK,
we ain't even from Africa.
I got you, AK, but chill real quick for me so I can address something he said about Jerusalem being in South Africa. Now, I just looked that up. There is no Jerusalem in South Africa. What you were referring to is a town, and I might mess this word up, but it's spelled Oudtshorn. And the reason why they name it Little Jerusalem or the Jerusalem of South Africa, because recently in the 1900s, Jews went down there and set up shop. That's why they call it Jerusalem, Brother Warford. And now you can Google it. Now you told me to Google that, but you can actually Google this and see this information.
So, Brother Yasha, so when I said earlier, are you from this area? And James dropped me, that's what I was getting at. So if I didn't get cut off, people that are from this area, not everybody knows everything. But when somebody's coming up here like myself, and I'm bringing actual credible information, tangible, people from outside should not be cutting us off and telling us anything. That's disingenuous, and it's very triggering.
What tangible evidence did you bring up? I'm from Africa, therefore I'm right. You're wrong.
Bro, I brought up the Twahedo. The Twahedo means one. It's the first Bible. We're talking about this ancient place. And I said I was born in the Sunaki. When you break down the cataracts coming out of Gibbs, then you would know. But if you're from outside, everything I'm saying is going to be foreign. But you still have the nerve to drop me, bro. You have no idea what you're talking about.
He was dropped. Hold on, James. Hold on.
Let me finish what I'm saying, and then I'm going to be quiet and let everybody else go. What you told my brother literally was, because I'm from Africa, you outsiders don't need to be bringing this information.
I didn't say that. That's not verbatim. No, that's not what I said. No.
All right.
Look, you don't drop me, go ahead. It's okay. It's your room. It's cool. No. You can drop me. Go ahead.
All right, but you got to let me finish. That's all I'm asking you to do. I didn't interrupt you when you went to flowing. I let you rock. Now let me rock. All I'm saying is, don't come in here because I'm saying I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let anybody else in here doing it. It ain't just for you. I'm saying nobody come in here with just an argument, just plainly being, I'm from this area, therefore I'm right, you're wrong. You have to give us something tangible, not just talking about something irrelevant to the topic at hand, but something that's actually relevant. Like if you would have brought up like, look, you're lying about this right here because of this right here in South Africa. Oh no, it's actually called this in South Africa. That's a tangible argument. But just being like, oh, you're an outsider, you're wrong, that's not a tangible argument. That's all I was saying. And I'm done.
All right, so listen, AK, that's from what I heard, you weren't dropped down because.
So wait, can I speak now, James? So I can't respond.
Okay. No, I didn't say that. So you're doing it again. You didn't say you could respond. I wanted to give you an explanation on why you was set down. You were set down because of what you're doing right now, which is over talking. All right, that's my understanding. While James was speaking, he was trying to speak, and you were over talking. All right, so that's not the problem. We have no problem with what with your opinion or how you feel, or you know what I'm saying. My personal feed when it comes to when we have a room is don't overtalk anybody. You're coming as a visitor. Don't overtalk. When people give you a chance to speak, you speak. When we speak, then we would like to be heard. So that's my understanding of why you got put down. And then you were allowed to come back up. So nobody's being disingenuous. We're just getting control of the situation. All right? All those that you see with green beans, if they decide that they need to put you down for a minute because you're speaking too much, or you're over-talking, or you're being argumentative, they have the right to do so. I yield. I land my plane. You can go ahead and speak now, bro.
Let me say this real quick. Ak Malak on YouTube. Ak Malak on YouTube said. I will let her in a minute, AK. But Ak Malak on YouTube said he'd debate anybody on this topic of Israel being in South Africa. So if y'all want to take that debate, he is willing to do it. We can do it on the source on YouTube. He also said we got bodied. That War for bodied us. He said that he bodied us guys. By bringing out the two parts of Egypt. And he said, don't ignore that, address that. We got bodied, y'all.
Wait, did you get this message in your back channel?
No, we're simultaneously live on YouTube, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot it was live, yeah. Okay. All right, so what I want to say real quick is,
Eve Reed, which one going?
Wait, what'd you say, James? I couldn't hear you.
No, I'm just asking which one for to go, AK or Eve Reed, so just know.
Yeah, let AK go ahead and get this off his chest.
Yeah, go ahead, AK, then I'll go next.
Go ahead, AK.
All right. So before James had rudely cut me off, I was actually getting to that point. So when I say I think it's hilarious, and I still stand 10 toes down on my square about this, outsiders, for instance, not even called Egypt, it's Gibbs. I'm born there. So when I hear people calling it all kinds of different names, it's hilarious. Then we go into the Metanetta, they say they're from the land of plenty. But now we got folks, when I was going into the South Africa thing about Jerusalem, prior to that, I brought up Twahedo. If people don't know what Twahido is, maybe we should start looking into this before we start talking about South Africa, because we're talking about the Jews, right? We're talking about spiritual thought. So when you even break down Ge'ez, it's older than Hebrew itself. When you understand who Moses, which actually is Musiet, and when you crack open that Twahido, which is older, you will see that. And to pair that with every other scholar like Chancellor Williams, that lets you know that Egypt was the oldest daughter of Ethiopia, or John Henry Clark, that tells you about East Africa and Egypt being a colony, that the indigenous people of ancient Gibbs weren't even from there, but antiquity. That the language that they speak is still spoken when you understand Baija people and the Kunama. And then when I brought up Symbol, the oldest archaeological site in all of East Africa, this is all the information I spoke about prior to even talking on Jerusalem in South Africa, and how hilarious that is. Yasha, I'm down to debate that about that, because this man doesn't know what he's talking about. And I yield the mic.
Hey, so send me an email, HebrewJedi@gmail.com, and I'll link up with Ak Malak, and you guys can debate on my channel, Source Debate League on YouTube.
No worries, man.
Nobody was saying, but I just wanted to clarify that nobody has said that Jerusalem is anywhere in the Americas. Borifa was saying that it was in South Africa. That's what the contention has been.
All right, so I guess now are we done with that subject? Because I want to get to the next thing. So
I got one more thing, Ivory. I got one more thing, because somebody on the show pointed this out. South Africa is 4,000 miles from Egypt. 4,000.
So you don't think Abraham could have made that journey? Mansu Musa made a pilgrimage to Mecca on camels, and that was several thousand miles.
I know,
so,
but
I mean,
how many days? How many days did it say he took to get to Egypt? The Israelites are going back and forth to Egypt. It's not really taking that long, bro.
But it don't say. But it's not like an impossible journey to make.
I didn't say it was impossible. It's like
Abraham
duration.
But let me just finish. Abraham was a very rich man. He was just as rich.
So
if not richer,
he got on United Airlines. I got it. He paid for a ticket. United Airlines.
Just hear me out, bro. He was just as rich as Mansu Musa, just as rich, if not richer. So it's very possible that he made that journey. There's no reason to think he couldn't make that journey. So to say that it's too far of a journey, it's just not. I mean, that's just not really good thinking, brother.
Hold on, I think my point, not the mileage, is not saying that it's impossible, but the probability of it happening. So nobody, we don't speak in terms like, it's impossible. All right, we don't operate in that manner. So, I think that you
close the door. Close the door.
The point that the brother was trying, that Yeshua was trying to make.
All right, Ivory, we can move on.
All right. No. Now I got a question. Just one. Where's Bathsheba at? Where's Bathsheba at?
Where is Bathsheba? Is that what you asked me?
Yes, sir.
I mean, Google it. There might be a Bathsheba in South Africa. There's an actual Bethel in South Africa.
We understand places get named it, but I mean, we're talking about biblical times, not modern times.
But that's what I'm saying, is that they've switched the maps. They've switched names of places. At one point in time, there was California was an island, and the waterway that was separating California from the America was called the Red Sea.
Wait,
so
what?
you can look it up.
I said this earlier. I told you guys this earlier. Remember, from Texas to California. California was Eritrea, and the ocean between, or the water, was the Red Sea. I've heard some crazy stuff. I said this literally 20 minutes ago.
But there's a map. You could actually look at the map, and it's called the Red Sea on this map. So they switched names.
Can you give me the name of that map, please?
We are going further and further. We are going further and further left with
I'm not trying to move the goalposts, brothers. I was just trying to say that our oppressors have renamed places. They've switched maps. They've done all kinds of things.
Bro, I'm sure they did, but I mean, we're going in a direction right now, and you have no real sources for anything that you're saying. Yeshua already looked up one thing.
Well, I've been using the Tanakh. I've been using the Torah.
Sean, ask him who speaks Arabic. He brought up
You can move the conversation if you want to. I think that's what Sean kind of getting at. If you wanted to move it, I just wanted one question.
Yes, because I was about to ask y'all, do y'all want to stay on this topic or should we just reset the room? Because I can reset the room.
real quick, Hebrew, can you ask them if Eritrea is California?
Please reset. All right,
No, I know.
reset the room, everybody. All right, reset the room. So, the topic of the room, as y'all can see at the title, Jews in West Africa. Jews in West Africa. So any of the mods can get ready to speak, and then we'll let the next people speak. So, do people agree, disagree, have evidence? People who are there anybody that thinks that it's impossible? What are y'all thoughts on this? Jews in West Africa.
Well, the West African people.
Wait.
Give the customs of the Jews.
We're gonna wait. Hold on. We gotta have like a cue. So flash your mic if you're gonna go. If you want to go, let me first do that before we just let people start speaking. All right. So I see Sheila, AK. Anybody else? Warfa. All right. Since you were speaking first, Warfa, we'll let you go. But first, I want to see if any of the mods want to go first. Does any of the mods want to speak, or let the people?
I want to see the direction.
Yeah, I'm with Sean.
Before I open my mouth. Let the room speak.
All right. Well, you can go first, Warfa, and then next is Bulu, and then AK. Sorry if I butchered any names.
I was just going to say that you see many of the tribes in West Africa, they practice the biblical customs. For example, the oblation, they pour out their drinks to the earth. The dowry, they're one of the only people on earth that practice the biblical dowry. Even the earth temple, the earth altar mentioned in Exodus, I think it's chapter 15. The Lord tells us to build an altar of the earth. You see those earth altars built in West Africa. So many of the customs that are in the Bible are practiced by I believe the Bantu people in West Africa. So I am of the opinion, I'm of the belief that the 10 tribes never left the continent. They're still in Africa. In our land.
All right. So does anybody want to rebut that, or does anybody want to speak on that, or we're going to go to the next person? Because next is Shibuli. Sorry. How I pronounce your name?
Shebuel.
Shebuel is next. Unless anybody wants to speak on what Warfa just said.
Yeah, if I could just touch on that topic about the tribes.
Are you on what Warfa said, or did you want to jump in the queue?
I can't put you in here because no one's going to be able to hear the conversation.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to touch briefly on it. Peace to the family, peace to the room, honors to you all. Let me just say that there's definitely evidence of migrations of the tribes, but there's also evidence, according to Dana Marnichi, that says those people
give me your
are
email.
still there, not only in Africa,
or
but
send me an email.
In, what is known today as Arabia, especially Southern Arabia. If you research some of her work, she has already basically identified the peoples that are spoken of in the Bible and where they are today, and actually, has pictures. She's the world's top ethno-historian on the topic, and I'll just say peace with that.
Thanks for that. I thought you was invoking Ben Calloway for a second, bro. Go get your doctor. I guess I'm saying that right.
Yep, I'm familiar with Dana's work. Anybody else have anything to say? And then we can move next to the next person on the queue.
Yeah, actually, nobody's gonna argue or shouldn't argue that Northern Kingdom is still in Africa, but that's only part of it. Like the last person just mentioned, there were different migrations, and when I wanted to actually read, I actually wanted to go. What if do you Do you accept the apocryphal works?
I think he's on the phone.
Warifa, he asked a question.
Oh, he's on the phone. Okay, he's all right. So no, huh?
When you see that red phone on somebody's PTR, usually that means like a incoming call or they're on the call. Or...
You know, no, I was in another app. I wasn't looking. That's why. No, what I was gonna do is, but he's not here, so I wanted to.
Save your question. Talk about save that question. That sounds like a good question.
Yeah. All right, so we can go to the next person then while you save that question. The next person is Shiluba.
Shebuel.
My bad.
It's all good. It's all good. Shalom, everyone. Shalom, shalom. Hope everyone's having a blessed day. I guess what I throw my information into the bunch, especially when regarding to topic, Jews in West Africa. From my, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as studied and well-rounded in the different tribes, cultures within West Africa as a whole. But luckily, I give all praise to the Most High Yah, that luckily I was able to retrieve documents, a full autobiography from my ancestor who tells this whole story from before slavery, during through the Middle Passage, and to living his life. Living his life.
Hey, brother, ends it.
He, goes off. He remembers his.
I didn't get your email, brother. I was gonna send the link to you via email.
And saying that him and his kingdom only celebrated the Passover, or the traditions and culture and religious festivals of the Torah Tanakh. Even giving you details on the genealogy, even their customs of lining up to the Torah. But what was interesting is that when he says it, he specifically details why they celebrate it. And the reason why, in his reasoning, is due to the Josiah reestablishing the Passover, and I believe it was is it 2 Kings, I believe. I'm going off the top of my dome. But in the book, it's called The Blind African Slave, the memoirs of Barreru Grinch. It was written in 1810, and he died in 1827. But in the book, it's very interesting, because it now I've been looking for maps to. He gives coordinates, latitude and longitude of where the kingdom is placed off the Niger River, 3 miles north from the Niger River. But as far as finding maps with the name, with the kingdom's name, it's been a little difficult. But so far, I've been able to find the language that he used does coordinate with some words does and do coordinate with the Hebrew. For instance, when we say tuah or kuah, we understand that's Eve in Hebrew. In the book, he labels kuah as part of being a tree, which kind of makes sense because when we know tree gives life. I guess through that through local means of African customs, we see that most trees resemble a symbol of life or shelter or protection, so forth. But I definitely would say that there's heavy documentations, rather even through Luda Equano, we see that being true. But that's all I have.
Great. A lot of good information. Does anybody have anything to add on to what he said, or we just continue with the queue? Anyone want to rebut, or just add on to what he said?
Someone.
I think the next person is. What you say?
Before we go to the next person, someone on Facebook, on YouTube said, "Your ancestors couldn't read or write. This dude is full of tales. Even names he's naming would be unfamiliar to Africans."
So I guess we're dealing with what, a white supremacist over there?
His name is Knowledge and Poetry.
Tell them to come to Clubhouse.
WHI.
Tell that person to come to Clubhouse. I like to talk to them.
Knowledge and Poetry. We are on Clubhouse. You can go to Clubhouse and join the Hebrew of Israel group. And the room is named Jews in West Africa. And we would love to hear from you, brother.
Can we put the link in the chat over there?
Let me try that. Let me try that. I think I did that before. It didn't work out. Let me try it.
All right. Because we couldn't read. That's interesting.
Question: was that Yeshua? Was that regarding to what I was just speaking about?
I think so.
Well, I would ask him to go purchase the book. It's only $20. You can get it on Amazon, and if he doesn't want to pay, then I can show him the link from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or the Library of Congress that has the book on file, and even on the back of the book, even the multiple people who reviewed it have said it's canon. So if they can say that this work is canon, and we all know that canon means original, there's no forgery in it, then I'm kind of confused.
We could set up a debate actually between the two of y'all if he wants to do that, because then you show sources and all that stuff.
I'm with it.
All right, yeah. Did you hear that, Yeshua? That maybe a debate can happen instead.
Yeah, I'm trying to send this information. I'm trying to send a link to him right now. Hopefully he joins.
All right, so while we wait for him, does anybody else have anything to say or add to what he just said?
I heard one or two things. I need.
Wait, what? I can't hear you. I think you're breaking up.
My bad, guys. I heard one thing he said, but maybe it was me on my part. He started getting to the Matrix. So I don't know if you wanna reclap on what he said, because I only heard one or two things said, and he was in the Matrix. He kept on going back and forth. I don't know if it was me or
what's the last thing you heard, Kenton?
Say it again.
What was the last thing you heard? What I was saying?
You're the Matrix. I can't hear you. I heard you say it. I'm saying that you gotta go into the Matrix.
I think it's your phone, because I don't think did anyone else hear what I said fully, or was I going in and out?
I heard what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my fault.
No problem. If you want me, I can always just regurgitate what I just said. That's no problem. Just to help with everyone edifying.
I know you. Right. I know you mentioned the book. What was the name of that book?
It's called The Blind African Slave. The Memoirs of Jeffrey Brace, aka Boreru French.
And you said this is the ancestor of yours, Brother Shabu?
Yes, this is my ancestor who literally fought in the French as a slave. As a slave, when he got put on the boat, he was sold to his captain. Fought in the French and Indian War. Before this, then he got sold in the Americas to many people in Connecticut. Then he fought in the Revolutionary War. Then he got his freedom, and then and that's how we get where I am now. From there on,
That's really powerful right there. Being able to track back your history, that's one brother having an ancestor who have been through so much. It's powerful.
Knowledge and poetry. Knowledge and poetry says, "I give no power to oral traditions, all mixed with fables and fabrications, until either genetic or historical artifacts back it up."
So he wants He wants genetic and historical artifacts to back up.
Yeah.
West Africa.
Yeah.
Man, tell this person to come on the club, bro.
I've already did. I gave him the link. Man. Maybe that's him. David Schubin. Is that him? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, but we do this all day. That's all we do. So I'm not sure why he stopped willing to come up here and have a discussion.
Man. Do you think I need to go over there to YouTube and go on StreamYard with you and do it that way?
He's not going to show up. He's not going to come up on the panel. So let him come here.
Invite him up. See what happens.
It's funny, if he read the book, he would
It
see
might be
all,
David. Let me see.
if he read the book, he would see all the other sources they put in the book to solidify that everything my answers are saying is true. And this is all from people from before the late 1700s and their travels to Western Africa. So I'm with it. And I find it funny. Most of our oral traditions, especially African or Hebrew, all begin oral. So I don't understand. I feel like you're picking and choosing, basically.
Yeah.
Especially while the leaves. In the oral.
Throughout history, everything was done orally. It was never, written down. So everything was done orally.
Yeah, Shabuel, I'm saying that right, brother?
Yes.
All right, Shabuel, can you do me a favor? Can you send that to me in send me a message in the back channel of the clubhouse?
I think
it's with the link to that
if
book.
you're talking about the reference,
The family's book.
Oh yeah, no problem. I can do that easy.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, no problem.
All right, so I guess we can go to the next person now. Trying to think.
AK, huh?
Yeah, AK, yeah. Oh, I guess he's not there. AK, you there? Going once, going twice. All right, well, everybody flash your mics if you want to speak. Resetting the room, the topic of the room, Jews in West Africa. Jews in West Africa. Does anybody agree, disagree, have evidence? What do y'all want to say on the topic? Jews in West Africa. Flash your mic if you want to. Flash your mic. No. All right, AK, who's next? Who wants to go next?
I think
right,
AK was trying to go. Looked like he was trying to go.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to see the migration pattern. That's all. And not to say there isn't no connection possibly, but has anybody possibly given a source to a migration pattern that shows these particular people?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. And we do have a very ancient source dealing with migration pattern of Israelites into Africa. I would advise, I might even change the link here in a second once I'm done explaining it. When you get a chance, look into Eldad the Danite. Eldad the Danite.
Oh, that's a real one. That's a real one.
Yeah, he's a.
Figure that out.
Yeah, I'll put the link at the top so you can read his book. But he's an ancient. Well, I wouldn't say ancient. He's a medieval Jewish traveler, and he recorded the fact that many of the 10 tribes of Israel actually migrated into Africa around the time of the Assyrio-Babylonian Empire. And he said that they went from, Assyria, Babylon, and there's 2 different migration routes. One is through Egypt, going down into Ethiopia, and then going beyond the rivers of Ethiopia in Havilah. And then there's another route when they go through, I think it was Arabia through Yemen to Ethiopia, and then going beyond Ethiopia. And so that's... Yeah, so I'll link to that here.
Yeah, I would love to respond to that.
I want to get in after you respond.
Interestingly enough, I have a book right here, The African Origin of Civilization, Myth, the Reality Sheet, Anthony John. So even in this certain books that you get, right, they credit Ethiopia. But my one question would be, if Ethiopia is so great, how come the indigenous script that even the high priests, when we're talking about religion, right, when they were trying to create, however people break down this history, right, but they had to deal with East Africans many times when dealing with this book, right? But the Twahido, the high priest of Ethiopians, it's not indigenous to Ethiopia. It's actually Eritrean. And there's a site that has the Septuaginta, the South Arabian script, or not, the Septuaginta for the Greeks, and then the South Arabian script, if anybody knows anything about Sabian, Rahubat, understand Yemen, Arabia, prior to Yatib bin Yatib's reign. So with that information being first found in Eritrea, I see why people so love to Ethiopia because of what the Europeans have done. But we actually still have the sites, though, that refute a lot of this.
Okay, so I changed the link at the top, and y'all should be able to see it. Eldad Hadani, and I'm just going to read the last sentence, and then I'll let James go. But the last sentence that's relevant says, "They went by what they, speaking of the Israelites, they went by the way of Egypt further down to down the upper Nile River and settled in Ethiopia and East Africa. The Danites were great warriors, and after fighting many battles against native tribes, they established themselves securely with a kingdom of their own." And you can read the rest of that. It talks about the tribes of Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Dan, and various others going into Africa. Now I'll let James go next.
Yeah, I'll just add on a little bit about on the Eldad the Danite subject and get to what I want to talk about. He also talked about how they had a Torah, but they didn't have like Lamentations in it. They didn't have Jeremiah in it, and they had a tradition, I think, of them going there because of fighting between the northern and southern kingdoms. So they left, and then that would make sense because Jeremiah was after that, the Book of Lamentations was after that, so they wouldn't have it. I wanted to bring up about the Phoenician outpost of Carthage, because we know that was founded by a Phoenician princess, and we argue that she's an Israelite princess, Ditto, if I'm saying that name correctly. They have tracks of them going down into West Africa, getting gold, going back to like 1000 BCE. You have that, and then you had the Note culture that popped up just south of them, which had metallurgy just like they did, had equestrian cattle, something that was that they had as well, and they then proliferated their culture throughout West Africa to be the foundations of the West Africa we know today. My stance is, and I think there's archaeology, like I can show, I did a presentation on this before about Israelites in West Africa on Maccabees TV, where I showed like the equestrian riders they had, the terracotta, that only other place you found that in the ancient world was like Israel, even though Israel was a more primitive form of it. You could see that. You had oral traditions as well by people like the Neri Kingdom and amongst the Igbo, who say they go back to a person named Eri. Eri was a son of Gad, and they have a monument there called the Obu Gad. It's a sacred place where it's supposed to be the burial place of Eri, son of Gad. So you have that as a migration route as well. You had Necho to help validate his point on the Assyrian. You had Necho II, according to Herodotus, who commissioned the Phoenicians to settle these Syro-Phoenician outcasts that were flooding down into Egypt to get away from the Assyrians around Africa. And that's where you get the tale of Hanno the Navigator, who was the person who circumnavigated around there. You had a lot of cartologists come up and say that, from his tales, you can see that they saw Kilimanjaro when it exploded. I think that's the name of it. I may be wrong, but it's a mountain in West Africa. I may be wrong.
Yeah, Brooke James. I believe her name was pronounced Dido.
Dido? Yeah. Okay. Well, fine. Yeah, Dido.
I believe that's how
Dido.
it.
All right, let me just close this real quick. But they saw a mountain, a volcano explode in West Africa. They caught like a gorilla and brought it back, which they thought was some type of primitive human. It was some female gorilla. You know, they cut her up and stuff, trying to cut her hair off, figure out what she was. But there's a lot of evidence to support this in, you know, ancient writings. Derek Lang, and I'm gonna land here. Derek Lang, which is a partner of Edith Bruder in the African study of Judaism, their little group they have. He has a bunch of studies on his website where he maps out migration routes. I use that as well in my presentation, some coming through Egypt and some coming through Carthage, and I yield.
Can I respond?
Well, before you start, AK, I'm going to say one other last thing. Also, look into the Sanhedrin 447A, I think. Is that correct, Ruth? Or Sanhedrin 47A, I think, or 48A. But it's something like that. It's the Sanhedrin from the Talmud. Even the Talmud
I think
says.
I think it's Sanhedrin 49A. It's either 47, 49. I know what you're talking about. It's 49.
Sanhedrin
It's one of them.
49A. Yeah. And that's in the Talmud, and it even says that the 10 tribes of Israel went into Africa, which is interesting.
Also, another book from Babylon to Timbuktu from Edward R. Windsor. He wrote that too, and other show documents in that book as well.
So all I want to once again ask is, Ethiopia, that all these scholars talk about, right? How come the indigenous writing language is not Ethiopian? Nobody has answered that. So now we're talking about Herodotus and these type of individuals. If you look at my PTR, there's also a book called the Periplus of the Eritrean Sea that was written by such said person as well. And also Diodorus of Sicily writes that Egyptians are colonies of the Ethiopians, which was brought into ancient Gibbs by Osiris. You can also find that in the African Origin of Civilization, Sheikh Anthony Diab, chapter 1 as well. And Herodotus has been writing that Greece borrowed from ancient Gibbs. And ancient Gibbs, they tell you, because once again, I'm actually born in this area, a different completely story on where they come from. And you can look at the Beja people and the Kunama in antiquity and modern day Eritrea right now as well. And they're actually still digging up tombs that connect ancient Gibbs in Quahota, Quohita in Eritrea. And then you can also find same symbol that Ramses II erected in ancient Gibbs, which people are calling Egypt. So those three things I just wanted to point out.
Maybe because the topic of the conversation is Jews in West Africa, not the history of Ethiopia.
Right,
no,
let me
no
ask
problem.
you a question.
No problem. Hey, I my bad then. No problem. No problem. I'll take that.
Do you believe that our premise is that? Well, let me first ask you. Is your premise that there were no Jews in West Africa? Do you believe that there were Jews in West Africa?
I do believe there were.
Okay. So do you believe that we do not believe, or do you think that we do not believe that there were Jews in Ethiopia or East Africa?
I don't know. You guys haven't spoke on that yet, so I can't presume to. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Until you tell me what you don't know, then I can say that.
All right. So the topic again is West Africa, but I can tell you that with the mods, as far as I know, just because of how we study together, we do believe that there were Jews in East Africa and in Ethiopia.
Okay. No issues.
All right. So I guess we'll go to the next person. Flash your mic if you want to speak. Again, the topic is Jews in West Africa. Does anybody agree, disagree, or want to add to the topic? Jews in West Africa. Flash your mic. Can't tell if anybody's flashing their mic or not. Did y'all see anybody? Moms?
Terry and Sayram.
All right, who flashed first?
I think it was Sayram to be honest.
Okay, Saram, you can go first, and then Terry, you go second.
Greetings, everyone. I only have a few minutes to speak. I was in here a little earlier and then I got disconnected, so I don't know exactly all that has transpired. But anyway, I will tell you about the Israelites, or if you want to call them Jews, that are in Ghana, Togo, and Benin, and southwestern Nigeria, that are from my ethnic group. So we're called the Ewe people. Can you hear me? Am I being heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we're called the Ewe, and we were falsely named Ewe, E-W-E, which is a female sheep. That is the doing of the Germans, who were one of the entities that colonized us. We were colonized by the Portuguese first, the Danes, the Germans, the French, the British. Everybody who was interested in colonization was on our lands. And we primarily occupied the place that was dubbed the Slave Coast in West Africa. This is prior to the Slave Coast being expanded to pretty much all of West Africa and West Central Africa, to involve the Congo and further down in those areas. So our people have always known that they were Israelites. They don't say that they're Israelites. They know the name Kana. They don't know the name that is being pronounced as Israel today. And we have long-standing oral traditions that speak to our origins, that actually validate what I'm saying. You will find even in our songs, the traditional songs, most of those were, we were forbidden from using those songs and, the dances, especially during the time of colonization and slavery, because the Europeans pretty much told us that they were demonic. So we were over there singing about how we struggled to make it to Kana land, and how after all our toils and tears we will get there. We were singing about how that was the land of our fathers, and they're telling us that it's demonic, what we were singing about. So they tried many avenues to suppress our customs, our culture, our language, and it's still being done today. One of our main oral traditions is that of the Exodus. And in that oral tradition, we talk about being under slavery. We were in slavery under the rulership of a wicked king who made us do impossible tasks, plural. One of them being that he ordered us to make bricks out of clay in which he had thorns mixed. We talk about walking backwards when we were able to be freed from this wicked ruler. We walked backwards to our present locations. We talked about the person who led us out of bondage, being the one who wrote our history. There are many elements in our oral tradition that point to our identity. In fact, we celebrate our Exodus each year in Ghana and Togo primarily. And we have various oral traditions. One of them is the exact story of Jacob and Esau, but we call the characters Maute and Adeje. Maute for Jacob, meaning the son of God, and Adeje, meaning the perfect one. So we have a lot of things like that. Our language is very Hebraic. I actually do teach on this. If you look on my profile, you will see my social media outlets where I do teach on this, if you have any questions about it. I mainly focus right now on names in the biblical Hebrew writing, because those are the ones that actually jump out to me. They've jumped out to me since all the way from my childhood. I see names of my siblings in the scriptures all the time. And so when I awakened to find that actually what our elders were saying was true, then it was easy for me to go back to those names and actually decipher them back into our language. So that is it in a nutshell. Our histories, our customs and traditions. We practice circumcision of the males on the 8th day. We practice the separation of the women in their time of menses and also after childbirth. We practice the practice of Avenger of Blood. There was a town called Waya in the Volta region where the Eves are in Ghana, where someone running from the Avenger of Blood could run to, and the Avenger could not go into the town to retrieve them. We practice the separation from all who have any kind of contagious skin diseases, leprosy, to the point where the human rights, what was it? I want to say Human Rights Commission back in the 1980s decided to set up a town for the lepers among us because they were so much, ostracized, sad for them, but that was just our custom. We practice many things. The worship on the last day, the Sabbath, we call it Mamled Agbe, which literally just means last day. And we actually, one of the attributes that we give to the Most High is that He is the God of the last day. Even our traditionalists today still practice their worship on the Mamled Agbe. The way we sacrifice our animals, the way we pour libation, which is the drink offering. There are too many things. Even the token of virginity is still being practiced till date, which is that on the day of the marriage, the couple is led to a room that is set apart for them, and a white cloth is laid on the bed by an elderly, successfully married woman. And after they're done consummating their marriage, the cloth is retrieved and given to the young lady's father. And so one day, if the man should come back and say she was not a virgin, because virginity is very important in our culture, if he should come back and say she was not a virgin, the family could take out the token of virginity and call the man in front of the elders. And if he was found to be lying, he would be whipped, he would be flogged publicly, and he would be fined. He would have to pay the girl's father. So we have all these things and then some. I don't have enough time right now to go into all of them, but I'll yield with that. Thank you.
Before anybody goes, let me say something. Two things to the sister. A brother said would love to have this sister do an interview on Zion Lex's platform. Can someone post her information? So I don't know if you're interested in doing that and just giving your story, sharing your tradition from where you're from in West Africa on his channel. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, actually, Akwete, who used to do teachings on YouTube about the people, my people, and their Hebraic origins, had recommended me to Zion Lex, and Zion Lex and I we scheduled two interviews. Well, we scheduled an interview, which we had to reschedule. And the third time we just, we're like, okay, well, just let it be for now. So, if he's interested still, he is free to contact me. He knows he has my contact. He has my phone number and my email. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yo, I got a question real quick. She said she's from Nigeria?
Hold on real quick, brother. What were you saying, Sean?
Yeah, so listen, I want to say real quick, again to AK. So listen, and anybody else in the room. So we believe that there were Jews in North Africa, Central Africa, South Africa. The reason why we're on this topic of West African Jews is because mainstream, especially Christianity, and some is
okay, NZ, who are you on Clubhouse?
Jews in West Africa.
Oh, you're Teshuva.
This is why the conversation and the topic.
Oh, I know who you are, brother.
So if we don't touch on those other areas, it's not because we don't believe that there were Jews in those areas. It's just that this particular topic is discussing where the main pushback is going, which is against West Africa.
Can I bring some of that pushback? Because I want to keep the room fresh and you guys on your toes. and let you know what I'm seeing on YouTube right now. Let me see.
Can I slide in? On YouTube? By the way, shalom, Maki.
Yeah, shalom. So this brother he's been trying. Hold on. You're NZ on YouTube, right, Shuva?
No, it's me also.
I don't have a YouTube channel, but I know of a couple different YouTube channels that talk about the diaspora of West African Jews.
Oh, okay. Hold that thought real quick, because the brother NZ has been trying to go on, come on here for about an hour or so. So I want to give him the floor. I just want to say a few things before I do that, because there are people that are doubting that there are Jews in West Africa on YouTube. So I want you guys to hear what they're saying and my perspective and my opinion on what they're saying. So someone says something about the Awe people being slave traders. I don't understand. What does that mean? I don't get that. Knowledge and Poetry said that. Somebody also said that their culture, right here, Rudy J. Heinrich says the Ave and the Van religious system is voodoo, what accounts for many contradictory practices that are not biblical. But Ashkenaz practices, European Jewry practices, are mixed and infused with different European traditions. And I don't see you going up there and battling them and saying, hey, these traditions go back to this country of origin, or these traditions are contradictory to the Bible. I don't see you doing that.
Exactly.
I don't see you guys going to the R1A Jews like Netanyahu and telling him, hey, your people are converts, and not just telling them, harassing them over and over. I don't see that. So Rudy J. Heinrich, please join the clubhouse and speak your opinion. And if you want to do a debate, we can do a formal debate on this. Anybody would take it.
About hold on, Marvin. We have a queue.
I'll let you go right after me.
So just to reset the room. Well, you go ahead, Sean. What you say?
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Let you reset the room.
All right, just to reset the room. The title: Jews in West Africa. Agree, disagree, come and share your opinion. And or if you want to add on to the topic, you can. We have a queue. Next is actually Terry, but flash your mic if you want to go after Terry.
Hold on real quick, Avery. Marvin has been trying to get on for an hour.
Okay, Marvin then Terry. Or Terry then Marvin, because Terry was technically next after Cyrene, but
yeah,
okay, Terry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'll be quick. I definitely agree that there were Jews or Hebrews in West Africa, as in all of Africa, North, Central, and Southeast especially. But there are sources, and the main problem, I dealt with talking to people about this is I didn't have sources, and until I really started researching Africa, period, when I got off of Hebrews, just started researching Africa, the Hebrews popped up anyway. So there's the Tariq al-Sudan. I don't know if you guys already mentioned this, but the Tariq al-Sudan, that's a book that was written by West Africans in like the 1600s. There's the Tariq al-Fatash, which is a book written in like the 1600s or 1700s, written by Africans, and they mention a Jewish nation in West Africa around Mali. Then there's another book called The Corpus of Arabs in West Africa or something, and they mention Jews several times. They mentioned that when the Tuareg first appeared in West Africa, the first people they attacked were black Jews, and spread them throughout West Africa with the other Africans. They also mentioned another group that was descended from Jews but forgot their descent through ignorance and time, I think they said. But basically, the argument is very, very hard if you don't have sources. But when you do have sources, honestly, especially reliable sources, it's probably the easiest argument, or not even argument, but the easiest explanation to give is right there. So just wanted to throw out those three sources. And one of the sources, the Corpus especially awesome, which was Christians in West Africa during the same period of time. They mentioned that ancient Ghana, before they converted to Islam, was a Christian nation, and that
we don't hear him.
Yeah,
are you there, Terry? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh yeah, so the book is called the Corpus of Arabs in America. It's just a compilation of different Arab authors from like back in the day. So it's all legit stuff. And they said ancient Ghana was a Christian nation before they were forced to convert. Well, I won't say forced, but before they converted to Islam. They also mentioned Mansa Musa, the Mali emperor. Everybody knows Mansa Musa, right? So Mansa Musa was in Egypt and talking to someone, and someone recorded him saying that they asked him where all his gold come from. He said, "Well, I don't control the gold; the Christians do. I just tax them, and that's where I get my gold from." And then they asked him, "Well, why don't you take it over?" And he said, "Well, we've done that several times, but every time we do, the gold stops growing. So we let the Christians have it, and they just pay us." It's a crazy. I wasn't even looking for it when I found it. I was looking for just Muslim Africans, and I found Christians and Jews in West Africa way before white people showed up. So just wanted to share that.
Nice, awesome.
Where is it?
Well, next we have a queue, Ben. But Shalom, Ben. Shalom. But
okay.
Next.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about two subjects. The first subject is because you mentioned Netanyahu is the arrows that the rabbinic book Noah's Drunkenness has. And I know that this book and some Greek philosophies were used to deform the African identity of Hebrews. And because of that came racism in the world against the Negrophitic Jewish diaspora of Jews in Europe, in Africa, and also in America. That is the background. And the book says in chapter 15 that black people were dumber as the laziest, I would call it in German, we say Faultier. And this is why Arabic, Asian people and Christians got to believe that the black color of man is cursed because of that rabbinic books that the Edomites put in scholarship to get right over the places where the other Jews of the Macedonians have lived. And I also have a video on my YouTube channel where I discuss about the politics in Israel, where they put Sudanese people just because they are migrants in prison, and they made something like KZ houses as prisons just because they don't want that Israel is overrun from African peoples. And the same wars also Eritreans and Egyptians have if they are Jews, not only the Sudanese, they doing double morale there in the politics. And even schools were burned just because people that are well-hearted are defending the African migrants and know they are Jews. The other side of radical Orthodox Jews from the Ashkenazi side and liberal left politician Jews are fighting against the African identities in Israel. They even kill mothers and women just because the kid is colored. This is a racism politic that goes back to ages. because they play on power over the monarchs since many centuries, that the Africans are lesser treated, or the Negrophitic Jews or identity, than the Europeans or the Slavic are. Okay, and now to the second point. I found evidence from a scholarship about the Book of Joshua. The Book of Joshua was found by a Roman officer named Sirius, and it was hidden in a secret library in a synagogue back then. And the Spanish Jews, or in Cardobia, copied it and received the book, and it was printed in Naples 1552 and in Venedig or Venice 1625. And there is also a Hebrew edited version and translation in Germany that was made 1898 by Rabbi Rosenthal, and even the Catholic Church has copies of and publications of the Book of Joshua. One copy of that was made by Rabbi Shabbatai Camus Levita, which is now in the Vatican since 1544. A manuscript written by Rabbi Tam in the 12th century was published in Italy. Another version was properly copied by a Spanish Jew in the 13th century and published in Venice, 1625. In addition, two ancient rabbinic works are also reported, one in Damascus and one in Ethiopian, and there's also a documentation in Jerusalem. I have to pick a card.
All right. Thank you for that. Somebody, Yeshub, in the chat was supposed to come, knowledge and poetry. I think they said that they were going to come, but biblical genetics is also apparently in the chat. I don't know if they can hop on the Clubhouse as well, but I kind of wonder if we should wait to let Marvin finish his point since he got that phone call, or maybe we should go to the next person and let him.
Let's keep the flow.
Move on.
Yeah, let's keep the flow going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think next was Flash. I'm gonna go next. All right. So I see Tavashi. I see Ms. Rizzi, whatever. Then I see Makara. I'm bad with names, by the way. Sorry. We'll let Tavashi go first, and then we'll go to Ms. Rizzi, and then Yakatara or something like that.
Shalom, shalom alaikum. I hope y'all have been having a good day. So it's a main channel that I have. It's by a black Jew. He's halakhically converted and all that stuff. He goes by the name of Ehad Ever, and he does a 3-episode breakdown as to how there have been Jews within West Africa. And the first group of Jews, of course, we have the Igbo tradition. They claim to have gotten there around the time of Gedalia, shortly after they fled into Egypt from the Chaldeans. The Igbo have a tradition that they continued pushing into Africa until they settled near the Niger River. Then you have the Jewish trade routes that come out of East Africa by the Yemenite Jews that connect with West Africa. But most importantly, one of the other brothers, I think it was Terry, he mentioned a document called the Tariq al-Fatash. And the Tariq al-Fatash is a document that's held in a Jewish library that exists in Mali that goes back, I think, before the 1400s with the trade logs and the and the business contracts that the Jews used to have. It was over 100 families. They were so rich and wealthy, they ruled themselves, and they all went by the name either Al Yahud or Ha Yahud. It was it was two Muslim rulers. I can't remember the first one, but the second one was Aqsiyah Muhammad. And by the time Aqsiyah Muhammad had stepped on the line, the previous Muslim ruler had issued a fatwa. So the Jews that lived in the Mali, Niger area pushed further into West Africa to flee from the Islamic violence. That's why when you go to West Africa, you find nothing but mosques, because they destroyed the synagogues and then rebuilt mosques over them. That's why the history of West African Jews is so poorly documented, because they had us as dhimmis paying the jizya. And Ahab ever goes over this in his series, but they had us paying the jizya and made us dhimmis, only to do what Muslims are known to do, which is stab you in the back. And that's just how they did it. And then Aqsiyah the Great, by the time the Inquisition was exiling Jews from Spain, there were Jews who were being shipped to Bilad el-Sudan, which is south of the Sahara. And Aqsiyah the Great was taking their gold. And he was no friend of the Jews, and he was persecuting them at the same time while robbing them. And you know, when they issue a fatwa, you've got one of two options: either convert or be killed, and your women will be sold as pleasure slaves. And that's just how Muslims roll. That's why the history in West Africa is so, when it comes to Jews, it's so, it's like finding a needle in the haystack, because the Mohammedans did a very good job of pushing us to the brink of extinction. And then after they got done putting their foot on our neck, they sold us to the Christians, who then kicked off the transatlantic slave trade. And that's why you get a lot of pushback, because when you go on these, what does Yeshua call them, R1 Jews? That's hilarious. When you go on these channels for these R1 Jews, they know how many Igbos exist. They know how many Yoruba exist. And these are not small numbers. And when you listen to them break down how many numbers it is, if all the Igbo were to claim Hebrew roots, which all of them have the genetics to do so with that E haplogroup, you'll have some who have A, B, and other ones. But for the most part, they're all E haplogroup. And they decide they want to go back to Israel, they would dwarf the white populations. And that's something that really unsettles them. That's why that's why they like to drag their feet, because the talks of the Igbos being Hebrews has been going on for the past 20 years. But now that you've acknowledged the Igbos, we've got other tribes in the area. We have B'nai Israel, we have the Eves, we have the Sufi Jews. Like, you got so many different clans of Jews that lived in the area. And once you acknowledge them, they're going to start pushing, because Rabbi Remy Ilyona already does it. He's already advocating to track down the descendants of the Igbos that have been sold in the transatlantic slave trade to bring them back home. And I'll just land my plane there. So shalom.
Shalom. Beautiful. Really good information.
Real quick, before Mr. Iber, I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. Keep jumping in. But every once in a while, I need to do one, because there's a lot of people in the room. So I don't know if everybody is subscribed to.
Oh yeah, we probably should reset.
Yeah, reset the room, and also I want to make sure that everybody that's in this room is subscribed to Genesis 49ers, as well as the Hebrew of Israel, and Shari's channel, as well as Shari Anaya. All right, so because we have these discussions all the time, and a lot of people are coming up here today. We would like to hear from them and see them in the YouTube, on the YouTube channel, participating. I yield.
All right. So just to reset the room, topic of the room, as y'all can see, the title: Jews in West Africa. Jews in West Africa. Does anybody agree, disagree, want to add on to the topic, share what you know? We have a queue. So flash your mic if you want to go. I think next was supposed to be Ms. Reed, and then Yakara, and then who else wants to go? Flash your mic if you want to go next. Let me see. And do any of the mods see anybody with their mics flashing? All right. And I invited you up, DNA. I don't know why it's not letting you. I sent the invite.
I invited too. I see it too. I invited him up too. So I don't know what he's saying. That it's not coming up.
Yeah, it's up. Well, there he is. Anyways, well, Misery is next, and then Yakara, and then we'll do another flashing mic thing. So go ahead, Misery.
You there? I apologize about that. My fingers is a little bigger than I think it should be right now with this phone. So I apologize. Hitting every button but the mic button. I'm listening to you, brother.
You got them soft fingers, bro?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm listening to you, brothers, man, and the knowledge is beautiful. I'm taking it all in, and the topic is very interesting to me because I've been doing studies for the last couple of months dealing with our people in the West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa experience, in the area. And I've come to find out tribe of Ephraim, the tribe of Menis, the tribe of Zebulun, as well as the tribe of Issachar. I have found them, according to the sons of these patriarchs, found their tribes in that area in the west parts of Africa, as well as like my people. We come from Ghana. I'm an American. I'm Ashanti, but we come from the Ghana area. So I have a cousin that's Igbo as well, but we are in the whole coast of West Africa because that's where the slave trade took place at. I don't know a lot of the names of the people or the titles of the books and things like that because my tongue just won't allow me to say certain words or certain elements of words. But nevertheless, in my studies, I've come across so many, especially like in the Congo area, is where a lot of the Jews are, and I've also dealt with the Northern Kingdom. See, the Northern Kingdom, from my information and my gathering, is come from more of the Northwest Africa part, but more of the Southern Kingdom come from the Naruba, the Southern Africa part, like Mumries and Cape Town and things like that. Cape Town means town, things like that. So I'm just listening. I'm learning and I'm adding on to everything y'all brothers said, everything y'all brothers are saying. I'm taking it and I'm adding it to my my arsenal. And I just want to say I appreciate y'all doing it. And that's just my my say on the topic that I've been studying that area. And yes, we are over there, the synagogues, things like that. But we're also the tribe of Dan, the Homie tribe, things like that. So I appreciate y'all brothers giving the information because I'm taking notes down to add to my arsenal so I could be a little more intelligent like you brothers. And I just yield with that.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So next is, I think the person who was supposed to be next left. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, I think they left. Why did they do that?
I thought it was DNA.
Wait, what'd you say? Oh, you said move on?
I thought it was DNA Facts or whatever that dude name is.
Yeah, DNA.
Yeah, DNA. Go ahead. You're next, DNA. Hello? Am I in the Matrix?
No, you're not.
We'll come back to him. As long as he doesn't leave, we'll come back. Move on.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right, now we can. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm pretty new to the app. I don't really know how to navigate the app. But with regards to everything that's being said, a lot of the things that are being said are touching on the oral side of things. But we live in 2022 and, we've got a lot of technology. We've got a lot of, scientific research. So I'm wondering, why don't we use and discuss that? The only person I've really seen doing that is Hebrew Israel. And, I'd like to have a conversation with him.
Yeah. So I guess genetic evidence of certain West African groups being Israelites, correct? Is that what you want, genetic evidence of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. So let's see. We can go various routes with this. We can use haplogroups. We can use autosomal DNA. Let's see which one I want to use. The first. I guess I'll use haplogroups, and then we'll move to other things. So what's interesting about many West African groups is that they have a specific Y chromosome called haplogroup E. They have specifically the subbranch E-M2. Now, what's interesting about that haplogroup is that it likely has a north to south migration. We see haplogroup E-M2 and Ramses the Third. And it's also obviously in his father, because haplogroups are passed down from father to son, and it will be in Ramses III's children. We found another mummy with Iwin-Biwane, which is believed to be Ramses' son, who tried to kill him. Well, not tried to kill him, he did kill him, on the throne. And so when we think of Iwin-Biwane being in Ramses III, we have to also keep in mind that really it's a family. It's a group of men having Iwin-Biwane. And Ramses III lived in the late Bronze Age. He's the famous pharaoh to have defeated the sea peoples that was trying to invade into Egypt because of the whole Bronze Age collapse. But anyways, so I see Iwin-Biwane being in Egypt a very good indicator that we can at least say that our ancestors were in that general area of the Levant region around the time of the Israelites. Now, what's also interesting about that is that when it comes to the Israelites themselves, we know that, a mixed multitude was with them. We know that the Israelites had mixed with Egyptians for a very long time when they were in Egypt. 70 members, as the scriptures say. Well, it says 70 and 75, but anyways, 70 members went into Egypt, and about 1 million or a couple 100,000 came out. Who were they mixing with this whole time? Well, they would have been mixing with Egyptians and Nubians and peoples like that. We know that the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh are literally half Egyptian because Joseph got with Asenath. Now, bring this to a genetic perspective. Like I said, with Ramses, we know that we were at least in that in Egypt, in that general area, in that general time of the Israelites. And so how did the ancestors of West African groups get into West Africa? But we actually do see, when it comes to things like the Bantu migration, that it would have been a northeastern Africa migration from the general area of Northeast Africa into sub-Saharan Africa. And we can see a genetic drift of this. And when these peoples with Iwin-Biwane came into Africa, they did have certain genetic components to them. There's a paper that actually shows that West African groups do in fact have a Bronze Age Levantine component in them, which is interesting. We also have an ancient North African component in us as well. The Yoruba people have around 12% Ibero-Maurusian DNA, and they also have 8% Eurasian DNA, which indicates that we would have came from somewhere in the north part of Africa, the northeast part in the Levant region. And there's also even a Neolithic Levantine component in West African groups as well. And so I believe all this evidence and much more actually can allude to the fact that we do, in fact, can say that our ancestors were in the Levant. Now, another very interesting thing that papers have recently discovered is that 3,400 years ago, a Yoruba component admixed with Jewish people. All Jews, whether they're Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, Yemeni, etc., all Jews have West African DNA, a West African component. Now, how did that get there? People don't just pop up with DNA components. Like, I'm not just going to wake up the next day and have a child, and that kid's going to have Eskimo. So how did these Jews get this West African component in them, this Yoruba and this Luya component in them 3,400 years ago, unless we were in the land of Israel? Now, how do we know this as well? The paper actually shows us that the Jews had this admixture, this Yoruba component, prior to the Babylonian exile. And that's powerful. That means before the diaspora, before any diaspora of the Jewish people, they have a Yoruba component in them. How did they get there? Unless we were in the land of Israel. So things like that is just, bits and pieces of evidence, genetic evidence that, have me to believe that our people were in the land of Israel and that we do have a claim to the ancient nation of Israel. And then when it comes to customs and stuff, that's the next point. Once we're done with the genetics, we get into the customs. And of course, there's Eldad the Danite. He said that various 10 tribes of Israel went into Africa around the time of the Assyro-Babylonian Empire. He said the tribes of Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, etc. went from Egypt into Ethiopia, and then they went beyond Ethiopia, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, to ancient Havilah. And also, we have the Sanhedrin. I think it's Sanhedrin 98A, something like that. It talks about it in the Talmud, basically, that the 10 tribes of Israel went into Africa. And so there's a lot of ancient sources as well, like I said, that mention it. You can check out Eldad the Danite. His link is in the top of the page. I just wanted to end it off with a little bit of archaeology as well, even though you wanted genetics, so I kind of wanted to put it all together. So does that kind of help?
Hey, let me add one thing to that real quick. You also have at Lachish, Tomb 120 Lachish was a verified Israelite burial. Those cranials are negroid with wormian bone. In the old world, the only place you find wormian bone is in sub-Saharan Africa and in India. And we know that India has a sub-Saharan African component due to the trans-Saharan slave trade and it being a port to the Orient.
Facts.
Thank you very much. Well, here's my thing. You mentioned a lot of Egypt, but you didn't directly mention Israel. So your link to the Levant is through Egypt. I know there's that Levant corridor, and they're connected geographically, and there is a lot of cultural and genetic exchange. But the fact that your whole thing about E1B1A or EM2 leads back to Egypt, that's not something absurd because, you know, the oldest E haplogroups are actually found in North Africa. So that's not really surprising, you know what I mean? But I'd like you to link it back to Israel.
Oh yeah, sure.
When he did a study, and he gave the study that says all Israeli people today, even Ashkenazis, all have sub-Saharan African component that goes back to the pre-exilic Israelites.
I agree, because that was already present in the Natufians. I forgot the exact percentage, but they had a mix of Omotic and West African and Hadza-like ancestry.
Well, actually, the Natufians actually didn't have West African DNA. They had Arabian DNA at 60%, North African at 20%, Omotic at 6%, and then West Asian at 10%. And that is a bit older than the Jewish component, because the Jewish component is only 3,400 years ago, whereas Natufians are a Neolithic and Mesolithic human population. But to go back to what you were saying about Israel, I think I did mention that the Atlantic people actually have a Bronze Age Israelite, a Bronze Age Levantine component in them.
Okay, I'll get to that, because this whole Bronze Age thing, if you go down East Africa, Central Africa, all parts of Africa, there's diffusion of that Levantine ancestry, which has a northern to southern decline. So it's coming from the north, and then it's diffusing into the south. So if you date it back, it still dates back to regions further north. So it was carried by populations migrating further south. Like, for instance, the Kikuyu in Kenya, they have that kind of Neolithic Levantine ancestry or Bronze Age, but then that came through Ethiopia, that came through, you know, like more northern regions of Africa. In fact, you even find that ancestry all the way in South Africa, in like the Nama tribes, in like the Khoisan. But all of these components, they're diffusing from nomadic pastoralists that were traveling from the northern regions into the southern regions of Africa. So that's where it's coming from. It's not something unique to just like you mentioned, Bantus.
Yeah. So, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Well, yeah. I'm going to make this real quick, Sean. What is your haplogroup? Okay.
Me?
Yes. What is your haplotype?
I'm EV68.
Okay.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah. But yeah, so I agree. It's a north to south migration. That's kind of what I'm being reiterating. And that's important to note, because some people try to just stick us in West Africa. We never left. I'm glad that you admitted it is a north to south migration. That's what I'm alluding to. But what's very specific, though, in that paper that I mentioned, I'm going to post the link now to that paper when I'm done. But the fact that all Jews have this Yoruba component is very, very important to know. All Jews don't have a Khoisan component. All Jews don't have a Omotic component. All Jews don't have a Pygmy component. All Jews don't have a Amazigh component.
they specifically have a Yoruba West African and a Luya Bantu component. That's the key. No other Middle Eastern population has that going back 3,400 years ago, but the Jewish people. And not just one Jewish type of person, but Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, all of them have it. And that's very key. And specifically, it happened before the Babylonian exile. That's why I say we would have been in Israel, because we would have been mixing with those types of people in the Levant. So
I agree. You know, I'll be honest with you. E1B1A, it's so hard and complex to understand, because, I think the main reason is because we don't have a lot of ancient DNA from Africa, and even in the Middle East, like certain regions like Saudi Arabia and those sort of areas, there's not a lot of genetic information, because E1B1A, it just pops up randomly in Africa, and it's the most dominant haplogroup in Africa. Like, the way it dominates just doesn't make any sense. Like,
do you know where the oldest E1B1A is found at?
I think it's Motaman in Ethiopia.
Nope.
No, the oldest E1B1A on record is found in Iran.
In the Mesolithic era.
In the Mesolithic Iran.
How long ago was that in terms of like?
What was that?
Mesolithic is 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000.
Yeah, that's. Can I say something?
Then you have
No, Warfa, chill out.
Let me just say this real quick. Then you have the 7,000 years ago in places like Corsica. 7,000 BC, Corsica? So it's not that's why we argue, like, they're trying to put us in West Africa, but ancient DNA we find for us is not in Africa at all.
And you know, with those particular samples, are they very specific subclades, or are they just like the basal EM2?
The one in Iran is very specific. Let me see if I can pull it up and read it completely out to you.
Okay.
And we're found with our brother E1B1B. A lot of people try to separate us, but it was clear through the ancient records that we were traveling together.
Yeah, it's E1B1A, 1A1C2B1, or Z16039.
And is that during the Mesolithic?
Yes, during the Mesolithic. Yes. 12,000 to 8,000 BCE, so we say 10,000 BCE.
Where are those people found today?
Maybe one of us could put them to study.
The name of the study is the Genomic Formation of South and Central Asia, and it's you can find it in the supplemental information.
You see, that particular subclade is so very specific. Is there any one particular like tribe or clan or group that belongs to the haplogroup today that we specifically find that in? Because that's very, very
it's in West Africa today.
And is it like generally found in all West Africans, or is there like a?
No, I think it's a few. I think
that subclade is found in Guyana. I heard it was found in certain people in Guyana.
Yeah,
I think those people would be interested.
Yeah.
I think their autosomal DNA would be interesting to study, those particular people.
And by the way, I don't mean to cut you off, but here's the paper, The History of African Gene Flow into Southern Europeans, Levantines, and Jews, that show that all Jews have the oldest Yoruba and Luya component in them. So check that out as well. You can finish.
I'll check that out. But the funny thing that you're mentioning, Yoruba,
it's best for you. Hold up. It's best for you to, like, whatever studies. I know you're questioning us, but whatever studies we give you, because we're taking our information from these studies. So whatever studies that we post or we tell you, that you should look into, we actually
research it.
Actually look into them.
Yeah, I will for sure. But brother, you keep mentioning Yoruba and Luya. Yoruba are all the way in West Africa. The Luya are all the way in East Africa, in Kenya, I believe, and then Nilotic. So how does that?
The Luya are actually Bantu. But what's interesting, well, I know what you're asking. The connection between the Yoruba and the Luya. What's interesting about both groups is that they have, guess what? E1B1A. So again, that kind of alludes back to what I was saying with us being connected with Ramses and then the Jewish people and all that stuff. So it all does kind of connect each other. The fact that the Yoruba have this genetic link is through haplogroup E1B1A.
Also, is a paper called "Restructuring the Prehistory of Africa," put out by Sale. If you check that paper, they talk about a basal West African component, which this basal West African component would link us with E1B1A2 in East Africa. And that would be the commonality. And I think that is what's found, because when we looked at Garfield's show, when he had Razid on, Dr. Razid on, he said that the component that was found in the Israelites was basal to the West African. So that's most likely that basal West African component, which you find like it's 7% of it in the Yoruba and Igbo-related population, and like up to 13% in like Mende-related populations in West Africa.
So that's autosomal DNA, basically, the basal African.
Yeah, that's autosomal.
Okay. And then one last thing before I leave. You've been very helpful, so thank you very much. With regards to the autosomal DNA, what I find kind of strange is that, for example, like you mentioned, the Yoruba, the Igbo, and these tribes having very recent ancestry from Israel. I think you said from the last 2,000 or something years, because of the expulsion and then moving from Israel. But then you have people like the Tutsis in Central Africa who have no history of that happening, but then they've got like higher amounts of basal Eurasian and Levantine like ancestry. So I'm wondering, why is it so low in regions of West Africa, but it's so high in places like Central Africa and the
different
South?
migration. Those are completely different migrations. You have like a Bronze Age migration that comes into East Africa that carries like I believe it carries that J component with it, E1B1B. They migrate down in East Africa, but the migrations we're talking about when we're talking about Israelites are much later. We're talking mainly around either the Assyrian exile period, or some people would argue the Roman period. But somewhere through
the dates you're given are much newer, more recent. So shouldn't you be able to retain more of that ancestry, more of that Levantine ancestry?
No. Actually, we do. Like, I've taken my DNA and I've put it into things like GEDmatch and other DNA tests that actually break it down, like break down the deep raw DNA. And I actually came out with a little bit of Iraqi Jew, Iranian Jew, and also had a little bit of Assyrian DNA, which leads me personally to believe that we left Israel during the Assyrian conquest, because I even have a tiny fraction of Assyrian DNA within me. And I also have some Yemeni Jewish and Ethiopian Jewish ancestry, but that's a bit higher. But anyways, we do come out with this connection to the ancient Near East, ancient Levant, and also have some Natufian ancestry as well. So there is a Levantine component, most definitely.
Have you put your DNA into any other DNA projects besides the one that you originally got your haplogroup from?
Yeah, I have, but
no, not you.
My bad.
Not you. The brother that was just speaking. I'm driving right now.
In terms like GEDmatch.
GEDmatch, just other projects. Have you played with your DNA? Have you dropped your kit in any other project? Besides,
I've used GEDmatch. I've used GEDmatch before, and I think my DNA pool, something like that, something similar to that. Okay. They're all just admixture models, basically.
Let me respond to DNA, what DNA Facts is, and bruh, you have to think logically. If I'm traveling from the Syro-African Rift, right, Levantine corridor, the closer I get to the Levantine corridor, the more Eurasian you're going to get, because there's traffic. People are migrating. They're close proximity to each other, correct?
You're closer to the source, yes.
Okay. So if we're traveling from a Western clime from an Eastern clime to a Western clime, you're going to see a decrease in what?
In the source ancestry.
Exactly. So this is why West Africans don't have as much Eurasian DNA as people that are close, that are seeing these people with J and T and mtDNA U and mtDNA M and N come in, and they're mixing with them. But the people that are coming deeper into sub-Saharan Africa, they're mixing with L0, L1, L2, L3. We know mtDNA, their autosomes tend to mutate faster than ours, or replicate faster, or twice.
Okay. You know what? That makes sense because there were more latter migrations into like the Sahel region, into East Africa, where more of that particular ancestry would have been brought into those lands. That makes a lot more sense.
So the more you mix, and as time progresses, your autosomal DNA percentages drop. So if we're coming in, it's a sex-biased gene flow. You're coming in, it's mostly males. They're taking these women. We're assigning them to the Pygmy and Paleo Africans. We're taking these women, picking up autosomes, and we're doing it over and over again as we grow. Remember, this is a population boom. The studies indicate that E1B1A variants going into sub-Saharan Africa only started with about 40 people.
So yeah, that makes sense. But then again, why would the language be lost? Why would there be a language shift from Afro-Asiatic or Semitic?
But here's the thing.
Well, that actually happened with the Fulani people. The Fulani people originally spoke, they're the easiest example to use, that's why I'm using it. But they actually originally spoke more of a Proto-Afro-Asiatic language, but now they speak a Niger-Congo language because of infusion and adoption. Same thing would have happened with other people like the Yoruba or the Igbo. The fusion of different languages and mixing of languages and stuff like that would have changed what they originally
women raise
spoke.
the children, and the men are the dominant coming in. The women are raising the children. The children are going to learn the language more like the mothers than the fathers. It's going to be a shift. That's the same way Jay adopted Afro-Asiatic. They came in, they're marrying Afro-Asiatic women. They raise the children, so the children speak their language.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that was interesting.
Here in America, it's no different than like. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean to cut it.
No, you can finish. You can finish.
So it's no different than if we were, if you have somebody whose mother is Spanish and father is African American. In the early stages of their years, they may learn some Spanish through their mother's side of the family, culturally, because you learn from your mother first. So you may, even if you don't speak the language, you understand it. So you understand the culture, certain foods that are eaten, certain foods that are made, you understand? So,
that makes sense.
It's really no different. So it's basically the same thing as what would happen today that would have happened back then.
Okay. And one last thing. The whole, do you guys only believe that only one subclade, one people are the Israelites and that no one else is a part of that family?
No, we don't believe that at all.
Okay, so it's a coalition of different groups and haplogroups.
We believe, I'll say me. I believe that Abraham would have been a carrier of EP2. So you have E1B1A can descend from that, E1B1B can descend from that.
And so what about these J haplogroups? You don't think that they had anything to do with Israel or
even the doctor that came on Garfield's channel? He said that they were an invasive or outsider, pretty much. Invasive, that's the word he used, invasive. Because it's the same thing like I just said. They came from the Caucasus in Georgia down into the Near East, and they would take the women or mate with the women, and then the women would raise the children. So now you have J markers speaking Afro-Asiatic, practicing Shemitic practices, carrying on the culture, but their origin is not Shemitic or on the patrilineal side.
But would they still not be part of Israel or the Israelites because they would have fought alongside E1B1A, E1B1B?
I wouldn't say that they weren't part of the mixed multitude, but when we're talking about the lineage, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's different than
right. That was God.
Okay, because I'll be honest, it will be very hard for just one group of people, one haplogroup to form their own. I don't know how to put it, but different tribes, different groups need to form coalitions in order to grow stronger. You see this within Africa, you see this within Europe, you see this within Asia. So it's just one haplogroup being the bloodline and no one else being a part of it.
Let me ask you some DNA. Let me ask you some DNA facts. If we're going to say your name's DF, right? And 1,000 years pass, and we call it, we say you're part of the DF clan. We're going to say, okay, you can be 1,000 years pass. Everyone's claiming to be a part of DF clan, but there's only one line that comes from you. There's only one line that has your Y chromosome. We test them and compare it to you. Okay, now this is the descendants of DF. We're not talking about the Amphictyony, the people that came and joined with DF. We're not saying that. We're talking about the direct descendant, the direct progeny that came from the loins of DF. You see what I'm saying?
And then what about his daughter? What about his daughters and who they marry? Are they not part of the family?
Yeah, they are part of the family. No one's saying they're not part of the family.
But they don't carry your Y chromosome.
Exactly.
So
there's a difference.
You have an E marker. Say your daughter marries someone with a J marker. Is that son of your daughter going to carry your marker?
Nah, he won't.
You don't carry that J marker. Now you gonna say he part of the family, but when people start saying, "All right, we want to get the direct line from father to son from DF," he gonna be left on the outside, right?
Right, he's gonna be left his paternal line, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be on the outside. He's gonna go back to his father's line.
Right, but your sons would stay on your line.
Okay, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think we had a meeting of the mind, man. That's good. That's a good deal right there.
Yeah, that was. Thank you very much for that. I did learn a lot from this.
I have a question concerning genetics. Since in genetics, we inherit half of the DNA from the parents, either from the Y chromosome part or from the X chromosome part, and everything is merged and reputed. Doesn't it mean that we carry always from both sides apart?
Yes, apart, but if I'm going to track a lineage from father to son, like to me it's a cultural thing, right? In my culture, we track descent from father to son. In genetics, it's very easy to track from father to son because the son's pretty much going to have what the father had, and if there's a mutation, it's pretty much going to be a founder effect, so we're still going to be able to trace back to who his father was. You see what I'm saying? But we're not going to be able to do that as much on the female side for son, because he's going to get DNA from his mother and his father's mother as well.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I know some genetic professions that, according to rolling the tongue, they got different siblings of children, female children, men children, and one of the males inherited the ability to roll their tongue and close them together, and another had a thicker tongue and couldn't close it. So there are many different abilities you can inherit from mother sides or father sides.
Right. So autosomal would not last as long. So when we start talking about the mix, the majority of your chromosomes are basically in the middle of your mother and your father, right? So you're going to inherit a lot of DNA from your grandfather, those people, your grandparents and great-grandparents on down would be your autosomal, which would be the middle. But that autosomal doesn't last long. It only lasts for like 6 or 7 generations. What you can track over the millennium, over time, over millions of years or thousands of years, is your Y DNA, your mtDNA, like James said, but it mutates a little different or faster. This is what the geneticists say. But you can always find those two. The autosomal, after a certain amount of generations, is going to change because your great grandparents changed. People marry different people. So you might have a cousin, you might have a first cousin who is R and you're Y. But so their autosomal is going to be made up differently than, I'm sorry, you're going to have, you might have a first cousin who is R and you are, your autosoma are going to be a little different because the R is going to have Eurasian and, from the father's side, and the E will have African. So it's going to be different. So you're not going to have the same autosomal as your cousin, as well as if you don't have the Y DNA or haplogroup E from your father. So it changes over time outside of your maternal and paternal side. It never stays the same. The autosomal does not stay the same because of who you're admixturing.
And also, Marvin, to your point about, the admixture, this is a lot of reason why, you were saying the average, you get attributes from both parents. This is why in, a lot of ancient traditions, men will come into a region and they would take the women. Why? Because the women already have the adaptation for the region they're coming to, and they want their children to survive. So you take those women pass on the good antibodies to survive, and all the good adaptations that they may have into them to survive onto those children, so those children can survive. So they can live on. But when a lot of those societies, they go by fathers again, because even to them, it was more logical to trace it back to the men before they even knew about DNA. And that's how they built strong societies built around kings and bloodlines and things like that held together for long periods of time.
Yes, and also we have to put the aspect in mind that the earlier scholarships of cultures and empiracy, they count with the men's in the first place before they document the women's. Even though we know, for example, what we see also in the Torah, we see many women that are not recorded when there is a live generation testimony of a clan. How does it come then that a part of the Orthodox Jewish dominations of the rabbinic culture tries to say, prove your inheritance by your mother before you prove it by the father, when in the Torah it is evident that you prove both parts, but the dominant part is the proof by the patriarchacy of the clan, and from the house leader, who was your rabbi, who was your master, in which house or clan were you born, what is your kingship history. You have to find that order, because it's not only the DNA that leads us back home, it's also the cultural record that proves, okay, this genealogy belongs to this and this family. So how do we get to the families when much of the history is denied or represented in another way? Because we have the problem since the Jews got in exile in Africa or in many places on the world, that only the places of North Europe, Spain, or the Sephardics, or some of the Slavic mixed multitude culture had a voice in Europe to make politician and business since the Islamization after Muhammad. So how do we get the other part of the history that is, not so sensitive for the or presentative for the world, because the history was downgraded since those people were in slavery? How can we get there the family accounts? Because, for example, I know some Yemen documents where they recorded that black Jews in Arabia did marriages with Arabs and with the Muslims.
Well,
And still they try to defend the Hamkurs when they know it better.
I would say that I think this is where things like genetics and archaeology can come in hand, where the history has either been destroyed or is no longer available to us, because it can fill in the gaps now. It's not going to be able to tell us, day-to-day events or things like that, but it will be able to tell us what regions we were in, and if we do have any history about those regions, we can then, learn about the things that our ancestors would have been involved in living in those regions. And I think that's the best route we can go, because, like I said, if the history is not available to us, there's no other route we can go.
I think there is a route that is available. Okay.
Hold on. I'm sorry, brother. It seems like you're answering. I mean, I'm trying to listen to your questions, but it seems like you're answering some of your questions as you go along. Like you're posing a question and then you're answering it, and so I'm losing. And then your accent is throwing me off, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying, like I'm kind of losing you. In your question.
Oh, sorry.
You're answering some of your own questions.
Yeah, it's just a thought process, an exchange, the way we can look at things also, not only the question. And from the point how history could be available, what you just said before, James, I wanted to point the following out. The European Jews say that they are from us, and on the same way they try to deny us. What we can do on this process is to find also the tribological accounts that refers to them as heathens, and that refers to us as Jews, and that also displays the intermixing of the cultures. For example, the Illyrian culture, the Pelagasian, the Greeks, everything what comes with the Sephardim branch of Jews, and Hispanic and then Negrophitic Jews that have been erased before Jews try to travel to America before the economy to handle with China resources has started. That will give us, if we can accomplish that will give us a great development of experience our lost history if we do the work in scholarships.
Well, that sounds prophetic. That sounds like biblical. Like the Gentiles will rebuild our home.
Yes.
Yeah, and so on that note, I'm going to reset the room real quick. Jews in West Africa. Does anybody agree, disagree? I want to add on to the topic. We're going to start a new queue. Flash your mic if you want to speak on it. Flash your mic. Jews in West Africa, agree, disagree, or does anyone have knowledge on the topic? Flash your mic. All right. Mods, do y'all see anybody's mics flashing? All right. I see how James. Since James is a mod, I'll let you go first, James, unless you want to ask.
I was just going to say, I saw how Mike flashed. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll let you go, Hal.
Hey, I just wanted to say peace and shalom to everybody. As far as, I haven't been in a room with y'all brothers for a minute. I hope everything is well with your brothers on all aspects of your. This how music.
Okay, shalom.
I got a different picture. I got a picture
I know.
of my son.
Shalom, bro.
Peace, brother. So I recently saw the video where they're saying, pretty much anybody in West Africa is a Jew just from through white Jews that went over there and married, and they try to push the same thing with San Tomé.
Do y'all hear him?
Yeah, I thought my phone crashed for a minute.
Me too.
But I think I know where he's going. It's the same thing. why we created this room and the title, which is West African Jews. It's because everybody's pushing against the mainstream, from the Afrocentrics to the Christians to everybody else, are pushing against West African Jews, but they don't push against North African Jews, Central African Jews, or even South African Jews. They don't push against, the mainstream does not push against mainstream Christianity, mainstream Judaism. They do not push against this. They do not push against any of haplogroup or any Jew from those particular areas of Africa, but they push against West Africa. So this is why this room is named. It's given the title that it's been given.
Let me go after you, Sean.
Go ahead, you got it.
I find it.
What I was about to say is how music back, but if he's not back, you can go ahead, Tapashi. You there, Hal? Or I guess he's not back. Go ahead, Tapashi.
I did want to jump on Sean's point because it gets annoying because you'll have people amongst who identify as Black Hebrew Israelites come and tell us that the only reason why we're calling ourselves Jews now and saying that West African Jews are Jews is because rabbis went into West Africa. No, that's not how that works. We've been claiming to be Hebrews for the past 400 to 600 years, if not beyond that, before the Muslims even got into the area. And we don't need the chart to say that we're Israelites. We don't need the rabbis to say that we're Israelites. We can stand on DNA alone. And just like Sean said, it's annoying because the European Jews have like 4 to 5 different haplogroups, and no one ever gives them any backlash for the fact that there are J, I, and it's hilarious. And it's not even hilarious at this point. It's just annoying how we have to constantly prove that we're Jews authentically, whether you want to say halakhically or not. That's your little mental argument you can have. But it's like all these other groups come constantly to try and make us prove ourselves. And then when we do, it goes from proving ourselves into emotionalism. So now that we've presented the fact that we have DNA and records, which you weren't expecting, because everybody teaches that West Africans were naked with spears. But now that we have DNA and records on top of that, you don't want to believe our records, so we provide you oral tradition. Like it's like every time we prove we're Jews, they move the goalposts. And it's just like I'm tired of explaining why we're a legitimate group of Jews, even though not all of us may be of the Southern Kingdom. We've got Ephraim, we've got some Dan, we've got some Naphtali. Depends on where you go. They have a whole region in Nigeria called Obugad, and they all claim descent from Areli and Erie. So it's just like, and they all fall into the haplogroup. Like I said, you'll have some folks in there who have B and A, just comes with the admixture. But it's just like we've got those 3 haplogroups, and we all proudly identify the E haplogroup being the main carrier for the Israelite people. But these other groups have 4 to 5 different ones, and everyone lets them go about their day unassailed. And it really gets annoying.
They even have our DNA. They have their E3A and E3B. Ashkenazi Jew. Yeah, Sephardim, the E3A, E3B. Ashkenazi, E3A, E3B. Mizrahi, same thing. They have our DNA amongst them.
Samaritan Jews, all of them.
Yeah. So it's like the reason why they're not, we know exactly why they're not heckled. It's because you have a particular skin color. That's what it goes back to.
Bingo.
Jews in West Africa.
I'm sorry.
Central Africa, not in North Africa, not in South Africa. We do believe that we are all over there, as well as the diaspora, Iraq, Iran, Europe. We're everywhere, but they just want to deny West Africa.
Exactly, and we represent for our brothers that went to Europe. Josephus tell you the Jews went to Europe. We represent that, but Josephus also tell you Jews went to Africa. And it wasn't a small pocket of people. Even if it was a small pocket of people, people multiply. People reproduce. They expand.
They take multiple wives.
Yeah. They believe in polygamy.
We have to take an apologetic position. Like, oh, no, we're not excluding. Man, the hell with all that. If they feel as if we're excluding them, they can come in these rooms and talk to us as to why they feel like we're excluding them, so that we can let them know every single time we have one of these conversations, we always have to take the stance of we're not excluded. Man, look, at this point, if you don't believe it's West
Nah,
Africa,
but they don't. Bro, they don't. They don't come in the room. They know that we don't deny anybody else, but they create a narrative that we do. Because they listen to us enough to know that we don't deny any phenotype that is E haplogroup. We don't deny any of them. You know,
and we definitely don't get into religious affiliation.
Right, and some of them are butthurt because they don't belong to this particular haplogroup, and nobody messes with them. Nobody says anything to them. Nobody tells them that they're not or they don't belong. Just recently, just us, just these particular people that came off of West Africa, because the North Africans don't argue with them. People don't argue with them, but we do. Hence your argument.
Yeah, I think on that case, there are lots of gaps to fill because since the way of how we prove inheritance by DNA, this method of politician and of science is only like 200 years. But the people that accepted by kingdomships and by other historical records to confirm that they are Jews without proving haplogroups, they have proven it since the 1300s or earlier on everything that starts from the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. They have their documents for it. The point is to find back our roots and how we can document it. We also have to have a valid collection of data that is from our own politics as Hebrews in Africa, from our own research transports and our cultural resources, how we migrate, what we carry, which laws and traditions and mindsets we carry. If that gap can be filled, what Jews from West Africa have from the South African Jews, have from the East African Jews, have from the North African Jews, where we were all connected because there were our trade routes, how we get gold, how we do businesses in the past. That will change the mind of the people, because if we are only causal on the DNA, we debate with people that are only in the DNA field of mindsets. But people define cultures not only by the DNA, but by the trading history, but the things, the cultures, the clans, the kingdoms had and traded over the world. That makes more voice than just the DNA alone.
Right. So, Brother Marvin, you make a good point, but I want to make sure that you understand that here in the Americas, all right, we have a different. Everybody, and it's not. I'm not trying to separate Israel at all. All right, from the diaspora, but we all had our particular struggles that we had to deal with. All right, so you're totally right. Politically, we could get together, we could do this, and we're not in Africa. We don't have the resources. We can't get our hands on it. All we have is arguments. All we have is studies. All we have. So when you say, arguing from a DNA point of view, or because here in the diaspora, especially in the Americas, we don't have brothers just doing DNA. We have brothers doing prophecy. We have brothers that's in the scripts and and pulling all of this out. I don't know what the brothers are doing in Africa. I don't know what my brothers are doing in Africa. I don't know. I can't say I hear about it, but I don't know. So, I'm not saying it's a far stretch to ask for cooperation across the board, because we're still struggling with brothers in Europe. Their lifestyle, those Jews who are haplogroup that are phenotypically European looking have a totally different life than I have. They don't go through the same struggles I go through. So, that's a whole nother dynamic that you're talking about politically.
On top of that, what little resources that we have for this type of, because all the studies that we have to get are either archaeology and biology that they studied over there in Africa, or papers produced over here in the U.S. that's based on those studies that happened in Africa and the Levant. On top of what little resources we can get our hands on, you have a myriad of bad doctrines going out and bad information that's causing confusion. And I'm not going to say that there's not any confusion in Africa.
No, I agree.
Y'all got it together, but it's Brother Marvin, it's a shit show over here. We got to argue folks down who don't believe in DNA because it's a quote unquote white man science. And let's talk about our brothers. Let's talk about our brothers also too, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off, but also add to what they're saying. To add to what you're saying, what about our brothers in Europe? What about our family in Europe that's living in Europe, that's been there for generations, from the Caribbean, from India, from Nigeria, you think they're not going through what we're going through? So, and we don't have the resources, and we know that you in Africa, we know if you're in Africa, you definitely don't have the resources because we know who's controlling your resources. So all we have is the most high.
Yes,
But
I
that's
see where you're going to, because I'm also from Nigeria. I live in Europe. I know people in Europe are sleeping, don't make the fight you make in America to be known with all what you have. But I see where the problem is also, that most of the world documents are only in one English. In one language, let's say English. Some are Spanish documents, but as long as we are not monitorizing each of the informations that is interlingual, that you can buy in Europe books of your accounts and read it in German, read it in French, and brand it like that, there's always a stock of information that is holded back, that doesn't bring light because only the people that speak a certain language know this kind of information and get busy with that kind of information. I think there is a lack, and there's also a lack of communication. If we don't speak, for example, to Hebrews that know their identities over centuries in Angola, in Rwanda, in Congo, even in West Africa, and make an international connection in that kind of matter, a scholarship, a group that works together, that do the information in digital businesses, programming, in any kind of matter. We won't be fast enough to be respected and seen and known in that kind of areas, and that's why we are limited in the information as long as these informations are not monitorized in each society.
Thank you for that, bro.
all right. Avery, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so we're getting ready to shut this down because we're about to do a debate on YouTube. You can see it on Genesis 49ers on YouTube or Maccabees TV. So we are now streaming on Maccabees TV as well. So you guys can start catching our live streams, breakdowns and presentations, DNA talks on there as well. But we're about to debate. Well, not we. My brother Avery is about to debate a brother named Danoy. He has a YouTube channel called Biblical Genetics, and he says that we're all liars, fake converts, and he's the real Jew. So we're gonna have an interesting discussion. The debate title is "Who are the real Semites? Haplogroup E or Haplogroup J?" So you guys are in for a treat. I want you guys to go to the channel, subscribe. And we're about to get this debate up and running. He's actually in the chat right now. So he has, hey, brother, I expect you to show up. There's no excuse. I see you in the chat. You're going hard. So we want to see you show up for the debate. It's going to be an awesome debate between my brother Avery and Danoy, a.k.a. Biblical Genetics. Again, the topic is who are the real Semites, Haplogroup E or J? So you guys tune in.
I got cut out. I was trying to talk earlier, but just want to apologize. I don't know how much I got out earlier to y'all brothers, but peace and love to y'all brothers always. And just as far as what is more important, a spiritual, a physical, or somebody that's culturally doing it, I think people need to take that into account, because like the guy was saying with the genetics, it's just, that's one aspect of it, living your culture.
I guess we lost him. But in response to what he just said, my content is not spiritual or cultural. The content I deal with is elucidating ancestry. So there are channels that do deal with the spiritual and cultural side of things. But when you see that Genesis 49ers logo, I usually deal with historicity, genetics, archaeology, anthropology, migratory routes, stuff of that nature. There are other brothers that focus and hone in on spiritual and cultural topics.
Right, the spiritual is second class. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, the spiritual in this how this is structured, the spiritual at overall is really second class in this form of argument. We're not out here preaching only class E haplogroup can get salvation. No, we're just saying that haplogroup E is what was originally in the Levant. So when it comes to spiritual and everything, all the other haplogroups can join on. Yeah, we know what the Torah says. It's not a problem. But we're saying that whenever we try to start up these rooms to say haplogroup E goes to West Africa and beyond, is someone in there trying to dilute the whole of the argument like it doesn't have any validity, and that's frustrating.
Right. But
thank you for that too.
But how? Hold on real quick. How you come in the midst of us to talk about genetics and like, well, we should be talking about something more important. There's other places you can go to that are talking about what you want to hear. When you see me in the room, when you see Avery, 9 times out of 10, we're talking about genetics, brother. I don't do cultural or spiritual topics. You see what I'm saying?
I respect that, but I'm just saying, as you know that you're an E, what are you doing on top of that? Are you actually doing anything spiritual or cultural to represent being an Israelite is the point that I'm just trying to make. Because the brother, what he's saying about...
So how? That's another topic we'll have for another day, and if you want, we can have a serious build on that. Because I'm not.
If brothers got Christmas trees in their houses and stuff like that, that's not kosher. That's not.
Brother, we are all Torah
observant, bro. Right, exactly. We're Torah observant, but we everybody has their lane. This is our lane, and we have no problem with what you're saying, Hal. But right now, what we're dealing with is genetics and science. This is what we deal with. You got other brothers that deal and what we supposed to be doing. When everybody, this is the 1, 2, 3 combination or the 1, 2, 3 punch: spiritual, cultural, and genetics. So when
brothers is observing the Sabbath, observing the dietary, that should be represented along with your DNA.
You're cutting me off, bro. You're cutting me off, Al.
Go ahead.
Cut me off. I'm sorry, Jen.
Oh no, I was saying, go ahead.
What I was saying was, this is the 3-punch combination that Israel is supposed to have. Spirituality and culture. All right, and if we all stay in our lanes, we can come together like Voltron and defeat any enemy. All right, so this is our lane. This is what we do.
And I'll just say this from me conversating with the brothers. It got a lot to do with this. When you get down to arguing with people about interpretations, that's unending. There's nowhere you can put your stake in the ground and say, look, this is a fact that neither one of us can get around because it's all interpretation. So we don't want to waste our time in circular arguments with guys over their interpretation versus our interpretation.
Israel being in South Africa.
We want to argue with people over facts. We want to bring facts to the table that neither one of us can argue against, and see who can make the most sense out of these facts. That's what we want to do. And plus every other Israelite out there, all they preach about spirituality this, spirituality that. We got tons of channels for that. We don't really have any channels that's doing only what we're doing. We just don't. So that's what we want to focus on. We want to bring something new to Israel, not just the same old thing over and over again.
Brothers got language locked down. Brothers got, you know what I'm saying, like Zion Lex and
Divine Prospect.
Divine Prospect got language and culture down. Then we got, brothers that we don't necessarily agree with all the time, like Dante and Jay, Prophecy, and other brothers who don't have big channels like that. Elephant Man Room, a few others. And then
We ain't out the Matrix, bro.
My point was just, it's cool to know your DNA. That should inspire you to be more culturally an Israelite, to really represent being an Israelite and a spiritual Israelite on top of that. I'm with the genetics. I love studying genetics. Like you said, I think it's a...
Yeah, we should leave, that will fall into the category of personal conviction. So we leave that up to the Ruach HaKodesh to lead you on the cultural path of being an Israelite and all that other good stuff.
Because it's about a million different brothers out there preaching all the same stuff culturally and whatnot with a million different doctrines. I think there's 4 to 5 different versions of the chart. There are areas you can go if you want to hear that, which is fine. But that genetics is what this is based on. And the genetics are facts, not feelings. Unless you can read the Hebrew, that's the only way that we're not dealing with facts at that point. I mean, we're not dealing with feelings at that point if you can read the biblical Hebrew. But if not, like the brother James said, all that other stuff is really up for interpretation.
Hey, Rob Bourne said something, man. He wants to debate. Does the Black Hebrew Israelite theology, was it created in America? And I'm like, who would disagree with that? It is. A lot of the stuff that we teach is an amalgam of things that we experience in America, whether it be the Black Power movement, whether it be elements from Christianity. Some of it's taught from redneck racism. We pretty much, tried to play the reverse role of redneck racism, where instead of saying white power, we're saying Black power, and all Black people are God's people and white people are the devil. That comes from them. So this theology that we have is a hodgepodge of stuff that was created here in America. It's a gumbo, and I'd rather spend my time making not definitive arguments, but making scientific arguments. Let me put it like that, on science, than deal with, hey, this is how you blow your shofar, or are you wearing your shawl, or whatever. And you guys call me heathen, heretical, all that's fine, but that's what I'm focusing my information on and my time on with my channel, research and studies.
Now they gonna be saying we atheists like
just to speak on that real quick. There are plenty of people out there speaking on all of those subjects spiritually. We have no one speaking and elucidating the information about DNA. So to sit here and come after the one person or the one group dealing with DNA is ridiculous.
It's petty. It's petty because you have whole groups of Negroes out here who subscribe to the Black Hebrew Israelite doctrine who will tell you that everyone who's still in Africa is a Hamite, and when you go in to try and interrogate them on what qualifies someone to be a Hamite, are Hamites only Black? Are there white Hamites? And when they get to fumbling around in their answers, you start asking them about DNA. All of a sudden, that's the white man's science. But y'all took your whole Northern Kingdom from Mormon doctrine, so it's just like, where do the lines between fantasy and fact meet? Because it's really confusing out here.
Because it's like the 12 tribes chart. We still got brothers still pushing that,
bro.
So I don't want to hear anybody try to tell me about what I'm doing right now. Like I have to be in a certain line with. Listen, we're elucidating this information
completely. You got folks teaching you that all Africans are Hamite, but everybody who lives below the Texas border
from Mexico to Peru
You can
is
take it
are
easily.
Israelites.
That's how.
Yeah, but that's not
Yeah,
what we're talking about.
and on that point with the Hamites, I also have a problem. I see also, for example, in the IOIC community, a double morale. On one side, they are screaming certain people that they are Hamites and they cause slavery. On the other side, they go down with the flight, go to Angola and say, my brothers, you are my Bantus and you are my ancestors, you know. On the other side, they want to claim them Hamites, and they know better either way. They know that the origin of the Hebrews was from South, East, and West Africa. So they are propagating generalization in a way that is not right.
But Marvin,
and that is so healthy.
This is what the brothers here are saying.
Yes.
This is what they're saying. What you guys are talking about, what Marvin, what you're talking about, what Shuba, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, what you're talking about is what the brothers here on the panel are not trying to do. They are dealing with DNA that doesn't have to do with theoretics or anything else. DNA is a pattern that you can observe in people's actual makeup. So what they're trying to do is identify, just like you take fruits and you sort them out. Well, these are, long, slender, they have thick skin, they're colored yellow. These are bananas, okay? And these are round, and these are, they have colors, but they have consistency. So you know what? We find that we have red apples and we have green apples. And so
I understand that.
They're not taking theory, right? Yes, there is a biblical, but so nobody here is leaning. When the brothers up here are completely unbiased, the only bias that they might have is the commonality that we believe in the Bible. That's it. Other than that, I think several times it's been said on the panel that Israel, and if you believe in the Bible, you would know that Israel is in every single nation. So we get the frustrations, right? Listen, myself, Yeshua, we come from IUIC. We also realize how dumb a lot of the arguments that they teach, a lot of things they teach is completely ignorant. It's kindergarten stuff. Only people that don't know anything about the Bible can fall for it. And so this is what we're saying. They don't want to waste their time on whether theories about who is what tribe, besides what we can observe from DNA. That's it.
Yeah, plus,
I want to make the point real quick. If I can just make a
unify over doctrine. You just can't, because there's so many different ones, but we can unify over our bloodline. We can unify over DNA and our common descent. And Israel's supposed to be pushing towards unification, not just arguing with each other over doctrine all the damn day.
That I think I heard Rule say.
How? Hold on. Chakma, I want to thank you. Chakma, I want to thank you very much for that. Your closing statement. We still have a debate to get to, family, so we're not going to continue this too much longer. All right? So
yeah, I just wanted to get 1 point out.
All right, you said that before.
Yeah, I had dropped out by mistake. My phone setting was, it cut me off while I was talking. But
we got a debate to be on the time constraint. So
yeah, I think it was Rue that said, "Oh, we're the ones that created this." This was out from Dr. Yusuf Beni. He was the first one to push the E thing. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then my main point was just after you find out your E, if you're just focused on DNA and you're not focused on actually living as an Israelite and doing the practices, if you still got Christmas trees in your house, if you're still eating pork, if you're not keeping the Sabbath, if you're going to your daughter's soccer games instead of keeping the Sabbath, then
all right. So if y'all doing any of that,
you're continuously repeating yourself, and we understand your argument, but we got to.
Hey, how you know how many times I had to work on this? Oh, I'm gonna say this. You know how many times I had to work on the Sabbath? I had to work on the Sabbath a lot of times. And I'm not gonna sit up here and not feed my family because somebody on the internet has a problem with that. Because you're not gonna pay my bills, brother.
But that's the thing, Yeshua. According to Torah, you not being able to keep the Sabbath is a punishment for breaking the covenant.
Exactly.
So that argument's counterintuitive. You gotta work the Sabbath, bro. You're not in your land. You don't make the rules. You can get a job that keeps you the Sabbath off. Cool. But if you can't, you're done.
I work with a merch.
We're not an autonomous nation no more. We can't handle our own business. We got to live by the constraints that we're under. This is where we get grace from. This is how we get grace through Yeshua. I'm going to leave it at that because now I'm getting theological.
On the East Coast, Sean, on the East Coast, you know how cold it gets. Hold on. Hold on real quick.
I didn't say go to work.
Okay. I just want to throw that out there because on the East Coast, it's negative 16 degrees. It's on the Sabbath. You're going to want somebody like me to come to your house and fix your furnace. You understand? You ain't gonna risk freezing to death or your pipe bursting.
No, you're right. I'm just talking about when you have things at your leisure that you can do, that you can put off, that are in your control, that you do the proper preparations in order to have the Sabbath off. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about.
How? What you do is you start your room right after we finish, and you express that to the brothers and sisters that's in the room right now, and y'all can have a serious build on that.
Sean, if you don't if you eat pork and all that, that's on you. You know what I mean? This is a touchy subject for you. You know what I mean? That's on you. You know, because you go to soccer games on the Sabbath, that's on you. You know what I mean?
Can I say something to how because he's mentioned something about keeping the Sabbath and everything. I want to make a comparison about Moses' time, because when Moses was collecting the Israelites, did they instantly keep the Sabbath, or did only the Levites keep the Sabbath until they are sovereign? You know, we have to work first on our own businesses, on our own state system, our own morals, our own missionaries, to have the resources, you know, that we can say we stop working on Sabbath and the other nations are working for us, like the Bible says. But while the process, we are in a work stage when we build all these things, all these structures that will help us to work in God's morals. You know, there are some things we can't just do it now. For example, Joseph's gravement was also made after Jacob was sovereign, when his brother Esau was fighting that Jacob don't get the document for Joseph, you know?
Marvin, I'm not talking about working. I was talking about going to the club, going to a bar on the Sabbath, going to a party, going to a sports event, going to something. I was not talking about working.
All right,
yes, okay.
Hold on, Marvin, please. Listen, we have to go. Somebody reset the room.
All right, so
that we have to take care of.
Yeah, so we're about to get into this debate at 3:00 Central Standard Time, which is in about an hour, and so we're going to shut the room down and come to the debate. It'll be held on Genesis 49ers YouTube channel. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
Okay, so yeah, we're about to shut this room down. Come to the debate again on Genesis 49ers YouTube channel, 3:00 Central Standard Time. That's basically in an hour.
4:00. It's 4:00. We don't do standard time. On the East Coast.
Okay.
Come on, man.
But yeah, I'll be debating a guy named Dan.
Hey, can we do it in 10 minutes? Because he just popped up in the room. Can we do it in 10 minutes?
That was it?
Well, I'm actually in class.
So you need the hour. He just popped up in the room. Dang.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of class. The only reason I'm talking to y'all is because this class is online. So.
Okay, so you need the hour. It needs to be at 3.
Yeah, it needs to be at 3, unless I get out early.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because he just popped up, man. I sent him the link.
Yeah, we scheduled the debate.
Who just popped up? Are we talking about? Is that Yitz? Who just popped up? Who?
No, the guy for the debate. The guy.
Oh, he's in here. He's here. He's here.
He's in my StreamYard.
Oh, okay. So I'm going over there right now.
I need to change my see my clock on my laptop is still Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, when you go
let me go deal with. Let me go host.
Yeah.
Let me go host this dude in StreamYard. Send me the link in Gmail. Let me go host them until y'all shut the room down. Let me go make sure he stays put.
Tell them Central Standard Time, and tell them they accidentally had the old time.
No, I told him CST, but I'm looking at my laptop, and I'm seeing the time is 2:55 on my laptop. Yeah, I still got it on East Coast time. So I'm thinking that I heard up and got the room ready and everything, thinking we had 10 minutes left. That's why I was like, let's shut this room down.
Well, we can still keep that same energy.
Over there and hold it down.
We can keep that same energy and cut it down to 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I've been mute the whole time, because I'm still trying to listen to what.
Send me the link. Hold this dude down.
I've already sent it. I'm on YouTube right now on the other channel, on the other link, still going because I thought we were going to debate in 10 minutes.
No, I don't got 10 minutes.
Hey, he also said he wanted to debate. He wanted to debate both.
My class ends at 2:15. I got like 15 minutes.
All right, so I'll hold it down over there until you come. He said he wanted to debate both of us. He said at the same time, bro. Hey, James, that's what the brother said, man.
Is he on a suicide mission? I don't understand.
He said, I want both Genesis 49ers and the Hebrew of Israel. Both of y'all ran y'all mouths behind my back like females.
I know this ain't the same dude with his book. Never mind. Let me be quiet.
Nah, he showed up. I'm gonna commend him because we offer invitations for debates, and he's actually in the room, so I'm going to commend him for that.
Yeah, because Garfield stay running from you
until Ivri show up, and then let Ivri take it from there.
Yeah, we can do that.
That way you and him can go back and forth, whatever y'all got to go through. But I want to see how my man Ivri debate. I've been waiting to see this.
Hey, I'm telling you what the brother said. I want both of y'all. I told him, I sent him an email. I said, man, with respect to Ivri, y'all should debate. I'll debate you afterwards. He said, no, both of y'all.
This dude's bold.
That's what I'm saying, but
crazy.
I don't want to see him jumping out there. Hoorah,
no, we can't let him. We can't send him out to the wolves like that. No.
Hey, James, can you join too? And we had a conversation until Ivri is available. That way, we give the people something to watch until he get there.
I'm down to come over there, man. But you know me, man. If he start talking like a wacko, I'm just gonna be quiet.
Can I ask a question? My question is, if we have any club in our community for our topics where we talk about skills, who can program, who can do websites, how we model YouTube channels, because I really like to be educated and also work some pilot projects out that we can do for the monetization of information.
Send me an email, Marvin.
I was about to say you can hit me on Facebook or YouTube, drop a link or something. We can talk about that.
I just sent you my email, Marvin. So just hit me on the email, and then I'll get you in touch with the right people. All right, you guys. I'm going to step out and start a new live stream and get people excited for this debate until Ivri is available. He's in class right now. Well, once he gets finished with his class, he will be able to come and engage our brother Dan Oy in a debate. So you guys should see that here on the channel. You can go to Genesis 49ers. You can watch it on Maccabees TV. You can watch it on Yah World 77. You can watch it on Source Debate League on YouTube. We're streaming on several sites. So if you're on Facebook, NYMG Music Group, Source Debate League group on Facebook is streaming it. So there's many avenues you guys can go through to actually view this debate. All right, I'm out of here. You guys, anybody else got anything to say before we leave?
Nah, bro, shalom, bro. You take it easy. Good luck on the debate. You know you're gonna make his ass regret coming against you.
I'll be a judge. I'll be a judge in the debate.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's deconstruct this room, man. Let's see.
So do we end the room or keep this open?
Yeah, I'm ending it right now.
Okay.
All right, as you guys heard, we're about to engage in this debate until Avery comes. Well, I'm going to just converse with this brother till Avery comes. I'm going to let Avery engage in debate with this brother and get it in. You know how we rocking, man. 7 gang, Source Gang over everything. Stay tuned. We're going right back live. As soon as this one closed down, check the channel. You're going to see us right back up. All right, brothers? Peace.